Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our September meeting of Committee of the Whole, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. We're going to start off by doing roll call. I'll call your district number, and I'd ask if you respond with your name. District 1.
Trout.
District 2.
McDonald.
District 3.
Wayne Fowler.
District 4.
McNeil.
District 5.
Gregory Hemming.
District 6.
Mike Morrison.
District 7 is myself, Timothy Havinsky. District 8.
Michael Gunn.
District 9.
Wendy Sheridan.
District 10.
Martha Roberts.
And District 11.
Diane LeBlanc.
Perfect. And just before we go on to the rest of the agenda, I wanted to just test something. Somebody told me there's a trick on Zoom if you need to speak that might be able to save us some of those keystrokes. Councillor McDonald, you're currently muted. Would you press your space bar for a moment?
Mm-hmm.
I'm on an iPad.
Oh, you can't. So you can't. All right. Let's see. Maybe John, you're on a computer over there. Press your space bar. So if you press your space bar, it unmutes you, and the moment you take your finger off, it remutes you. So that might be easier than fumbling around to try to find the little dot on the screen in order to do that if you're being asked to speak. So I thought that might be helpful. All right, let's go on. In that case, you've got the agenda before you. Could I ask for a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by the Deputy Warden, seconded by...
I have something I would like to add.
Oh, all right. Deputy Warden?
I would like to add agenda packages on social media.
Okay. Okay. Could I have a motion in that case to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Hemming. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. You have before you the minutes from our July 14th meeting. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Moved
By Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Prout. All in favor. Oh, any errors or omissions that you've noted? Councillor LeBlanc.
Page 6,
Okay.
the RFD for Round Hill. It says Round Hill Hall Company.
That's their name.
Yeah.
It's what it is? It's company?
Yeah. Yeah, that's their name.
Perfect.
That's the name.
Just needed to know. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further?
Nope.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks very much. We will go on to new business. First up is a request for decision on the Artists Circle of Annapolis Valley grant application. Deputy Warden.
Committee of the Whole recommends to Council to approve a grant in the amount of $2,000 from the Capital Projects Assistance Program, small project matching grants to the Artists Circle of Annapolis Valley Cooperative Limited to assist with replacing windows to the Artist Shack in accordance with AM-1.4.9 Community Grants Policy.
That was seconded by Councillor McDonald. Discussion the motion. Deputy Warden.
What was,
And I'm just curious. I just noticed that it was a cooperative limited. So does that mean that it is a business?
Councillor McDonald, is that, can you, oh, I'm sorry, that's right. Let's see. Just trying to think who I can have to speak to this.
I'm not aware that it's a business, but I'm not aware that it isn't. I know it is a facility that opens seasonally to display artists' work that they and they do sell their personal works, and the artists take turns manning the establishment. It's very popular. That's all I know. I don't know.
It's a cooperative. The question would be whether or not the cooperative is operating as a not-for-profit or whether it's a for-profit.
Well, my understanding of a limited cooperative is a limited. I would just like to know if it was a business.
Know that this
On the paper, oh, sorry. I was just gonna say on the paper, it says income from the art sold flows mostly to the individual artist with only a small amount coming back to the group for running and maintenance of the shack.
So that sounds like a not-for-profit in terms of at least how it's operating anyway.
Yeah.
Now my assumption would be that because this has come through our grant process, we've had staff that have already reviewed this, and that would be one of the very first things they would check for, would be to verify whether or not something is a not-for-profit or a for-profit business. Councillor Henry.
I would suggest if there's a way just to hold this back for a little while and get that verification, it ought to be very simple for the staff to do that. Either they're nonprofit or they're not. Either they're filed under the Societies Act or they're not. But that ought to be fairly easy to check.
Let's see. I'm just going to ask right up. I know we've got a couple of hands who'd like to speak, but I'm going to ask John. Oh, we've lost John Ferguson. All right.
Great way to meet.
I'm here. I'm just.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
Just have my video turned off. That's all.
John, would you mind? Could you call the staff person who would have been involved in the vetting
Nancy.
to verify that it's a not-for-profit?
Yeah.
Nancy Chisholm?
Nancy, that's who it is.
All right, where's my fork?
And
So I will clarify that.
No.
I was just checking just to see if a limited company can be for not-for-profit, and it can be. But I will check with staff just to verify if you want to move on from this and not have to wait, perhaps just you want it to be verified to make sure it's not for profit. Is that the issue here?
Right.
So why don't you just say approval subject to that verification, and we'll verify it. And if it isn't, we'll be back here to tell you. If it is, we'll just process it.
Perfect. But I ask for, in that case, someone to make a motion to amend so that we add to this motion pending verification of not-for-profit status. Moved by the deputy warden.
Hold.
Okay. I'm going to look for seconder first and I'll let you speak, Councillor Gunn. Seconder
Who was the,
was moved by the deputy warden.
to
Seconder,
amend it?
seconded by Councillor Sheridan to amend the motion to include pending verification of not-for-profit status and discussion. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought our grant process went through around just after budget, after we set our budget, or just before the grant? Because I mean, the last couple of weeks, just before a municipal election, we've been filling grants, out there, right, left, and center. And on top, so that's when the grants process, we brought this up earlier, a year ago, that the grants go through a certain time of the year, and stragglers, I thought, got dealt with, but we seem to have an awful lot of grants going through. And the second thing here, my point here is with art studios and artists, if we give this group a grant, well, there's a whole lot of other cooperative business art distributors around the county. So that opens the door for all the rest of them now too. So I just want to make that clear before we get into this, because that is what'll happen. Once we open the door for them, then the Flight of Fancy in Bear River should get the same because they're doing it. There's another one in Annapolis that's doing it as well down by the wharf. That's a group, again, that's selling artwork, sort of cooperatively. So I'm just throwing that out there, folks. There's a couple of inconsistencies that we're not doing here and that we have to be careful, I think. Thank you.
Councillor Henning.
I'm not sure the number of grants that have come in beyond the deadline. We deal with that every year, but I think my guess is their minimum in relation to the number that we prove when we do them all at once. But my personal opinion is I'll do everything I can to support the arts if they're a registered nonprofit. If they qualify for funding, I don't think we can turn those down unless we make a blanket strategy that we will no longer deal with arts communities as available to receive grants. As long as they're a nonprofit, I think we need to entertain that. If we can do it, it's great. It's a powerful part of the economy, and if they're legitimately a nonprofit, I'm not sure what the issue would be.
I would suggest that also that we currently do support organizations that are much like this. They're working in different, not in the same medium, but of course we support the King's Theatre. We support the Port George Jamboree on an annual basis. We've supported some requests from the Evergreen Theatre as well. So we're now those are all people in the theatrical and musical arts. This is visual arts, and similarly, if it's a nonprofit, I don't see that there's a distinction because of the type of art that they use.
So that's what I guess my point is. Sorry to interject. My point is that if this is the case, then this is actually opened up to a lot of not-for-profit organizations that the only one that really profits are the artists, because that's what we're saying here. As long as the artists are selling and their blanket group isn't making it a profit, then they can get, get into the grant system. I'm just pointing it out.
I'm just trying to again think like we support the King's Theatre. We support them every year. They're not for profit, but they bring in musicians who are paid. And,
that's right.
And nobody objects to that. And they also bring in movies and they pay the licensing fees for the various films that are done. So there's money. People are making money on the back end for having produced art. And I don't see that as being dissimilar from what we're talking about doing with this.
Yeah, and I agree. The only thing is we have to realize this is open to a lot more people, a broader perspective of organizations and groups now. And they can put it in, as long as they put it in that not-for-profit category, how they're applying for the grants, then it's open to them. That's all I need to know, is to clarify it. Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you. All right. Further discussion? No. So, any further discussion on the amendment, to be specific? Councillor McNeil?
Nope.
Okay. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion's carried. And on the core motion itself now, as amended, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
No.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much, folks. Let's go on to the Port George District Lighthouse Society grant application. First with Councillor McDonald, yes?
Yes, I'm, as it says on one of the pages, I'm the president of that organization, so I'm going to sit out on this discussion. I'll be here on mute.
Thank you so much. Deputy Warden, if you would.
Committee of the Whole recommends to Council to approve a grant in the amount of $500 from Community Heritage Grants for lighthouses and museums to the Port George District Lighthouse Society to assist with scraping and painting the lighthouse in accordance with AM-1.4.9 community grants policy.
Seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Let's go on now to the Bridgetown Lawn Bowling and Quoits Club grant application.
Committee of the Whole recommends to Council to approve a grant in the amount of $1,870 from the Capital Projects Assistance Program, small project matching grants to the Bridgetown Lawn Bowling and Quoits Club to assist with the purchase of 6 new sets of club lawn bowls in accordance with AM-1.4.9 community grants policy.
Seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thanks so much. And we'll go on now to Delap's Cove and Young's Cove coastal policy.
Sand Lake, is that
That's-
next? Sand Lake?
Oh, I'm sorry, Sand Lake Waste. My apologies.
Okay. The Valley Waste was given the Sand Lake Committee $200 annually for keeping the Sand Lake Road open and in shape for the trucks to get into the garbage bins instead of out by the road where animals and people leaving their garbage who didn't live in Sand Lake. It would be a mess. I move that we give the Sand Lake Committee $200 annually for road maintenance to get into garbage bins.
May I ask what page you're on?
It's in the agenda, but there wasn't a written sheet in the agenda for it.
No written sheet.
Okay.
Okay, I was lost. Okay.
Seconded by Councillor McDonald. Discussion on the motion. Deputy Warden.
So all my lake communities on their road, they all pitch in and take care of their own road. And all the bins have been moved further in the road. So the garbage truck has to go in their road to pick up the garbage. So my thoughts are, if we're gonna do the maintenance on one lake road, we're opening a can of worms, because I've got a lot in my area that could use the $200 too. And ours works that the cottage owners contribute to the upkeep of the road every year, or sometimes more if it gets so you can't drive down it. I mean, I have a camp on a lake and I contribute to our road maintenance every year. And so doesn't everybody on that road. And I do not feel that if one lake road gets that amount of money for maintenance, then all of them should.
Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that these are people that live there full time, year round. 7 to 9 people, 9 homes, I mean.
Is it a private road?
Yes, it is a private road.
Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Roberts. You know, if we're going to start forking out for maintenance of the roads to get the garbage trucks in and to get people back in and out, we're going to have to do that for everyone. And when it comes to the cottage bins, we're having issues with cottage bins nonstop in my area. I've had 3 different calls in the last week about cottage bins. Either they're filthy around them, and I have to call Janice to get her to go send somebody to clean them up, Mr. Hubley or somebody. Or now the newest one is people are locking them up, putting their, giving a bunch of people the keys that they think should be using the cottage bins and locking them up. And then what happens is other people that think that because they have a cottage on the same lake come in and they throw their garbage out alongside and leave it. Then it gets torn up. So now we've got a problem with cottage bins, and this is going to have to be dealt with. The roads are one thing. The cottage bins are certainly going to be animal to raise its ugly head. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
I'm curious. My question is directed to you, of course, Mr. Warden, but probably Mr. Fowler can only answer it. Is there a bin on that road, or do the trucks need to drive down the private road to pick up garbage year round?
Yeah, the trucks do have to drive down the road to get to the bin. If not, it would be out by the road where road animals and people leaving other stuff and what have you out on a public road in Arlington.
So there's no large bin? There's just their compost bins and bags?
Well, there's a little teeny hut there, but they also have.
So Councillor Fowler, just to clarify again, because you broke up a little bit over the course of that answer. Is there one centralized bin where all the cottagers bring their waste there, or are they all put in their own recycle bin, their own composting bins, their own garbage at the end of their lanes?
Well, from what I've seen, there's a bin that's put there, plus little people, one cottage bin carts that sit there too.
Okay. Councillor Henning?
Yeah, this is, I guess, the same approach Councillor McDonald just did. Is directed to the warden, but probably something only Councillor Fowler can answer. Do you think it might be helpful to get those 7 or 9 property owners together and see what their appetite is to share the cost of that, letting them know that historically these other communities have taken care of their own needs that way? It might create an interesting discussion, but that's not a lot of money between 9 people to move forward with that. Could be an interesting and timely discussion.
Well, I have councillors. Councillor Fowler, go ahead first.
To me, to solve money Valley Waste was given the committee the money. I think our new station should also give the money to, but anyway, that's either here or there, I guess.
I've got Councillors LeBlanc and Sheridan on tap to speak, but I think Cheryl Mason wanted to speak as well. Cheryl?
If I may, I had a conversation on the weekend with one of the residents of the group that lives on that lane. They actually had an association meeting, and I think this is where this is also come from, is that they have decided they're tired of cleaning up behind people who are dumping that don't belong to their lake association. So as we are having in many areas, as Deputy Warden Roberts has mentioned, we've been out, my staff have been out to some of those roads on a regular basis. People are going into these side roads and dumping garbage. So I can see where, you know, they're concerned that the road's getting beat up because there's more people going in there, and there is more of an issue of garbage ending up at that bin. When you go down Sand Lake, it's right at the top of Sand Lake, and that they've already had their meeting, and this is what they have asked for. Just passing that on.
Understood. Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc?
Well, thank you. I was going to be saying that most of the different lakes have their own association, and obviously they have their own as well. But it's as Councillor or Deputy Roberts mentioned, they take care with their association and their dues, whatever they pay, take care of the roads every year, and the garbage is central so that people can put it in the area. Now, as far as having a lake and people can go in and out whenever they want, maybe first of all, we need, you know, signs should be posted that their junk should go in the garbage bin at the end of the road. And maybe that would, well, at least it's a start. But to be able to, if I were to count how many lakes we have or cottage country, in cottage country, I don't know how much money we would have to share among everybody, because I think it would be unfair not to have what you do for one, do for all. However, but that's my concern. But knowing that Deputy Warden Roberts knows that most of her areas take care of their stuff and their roads, maybe it's something that should be discussed with them as well, that everybody else in the county seems to be doing it this particular way.
Thank you. Councillor John, you wanted to throw in, then I'll go to Councillor Sheridan, then Councillor Fowler. John?
Well, we had similar discussions a little over a year ago, and basically it related to Valley Waste was actually paying for them to look after it. So some people were expecting the same fee, and when that happens, we're not sure why that arrangement was put in place, but if we are to continue that, and it's something that we think that we shouldn't continue, for example, then maybe we should put a time period on it that we'll do this for the next 2 years, but you're going to have to look at it in the future and put it in writing. Maybe cover it this year, or I'm not sure, but we never really established a policy around it. It was a bit of a sensitive area because they were already receiving payment from Valley Waste, and we're not sure where that authority came from. But that's sort of the predicament that fell upon us as it relates to the cottages and the use of bins.
Councillor Sheridan?
If I may.
And I've got Councillor Sheridan, Councillor Fowler, the Deputy Warden, then I'll come back to you, Councillor LeBlanc. Councillor Sheridan?
In regards to, you had mentioned it was a private road and they're year-round residents. Well, I have a lot of private roads in my district. So then it would open up to these people as well. If it's a private road with 7 or 8 houses, I can name several in Cotw. So are they going to be qualified for this $200 too? Because I think we got to work together. They work together. They get a bin out there. There's no issue. They realize that they have to do that. It's when you're on a private road, you've got to work together as a team, figure it out, and move forward with it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fowler?
Well, I just wanted to say that there are all year-round houses in there, and they are taxpayers. And also, yeah, I still believe that that where they're year-round and the road has to be plowed in the winter, what have you, I still think that they should be entitled to $200. That's all.
Thank you. Deputy Warden?
Well, I have year-round residents on all my lake roads. And how that money came into effect from Valley Waste is they paid a person to take care of the bin, to make sure it was clean, and to make sure the garbage wasn't around it. It was not for maintenance for the road, although when we were reviewing that at the time, there was some groups taking the money to repair the roads, but that was not the intent, to my knowledge, when we were reviewing it, that was what it was for. It would have been the same way in my area. There was one person that was designated to look after the bin, and he also got compensated for the work that he did for the garbage bin. It was not meant to repair private roads. And you're right, we have discussed this before. And I will not support a motion to do maintenance on a private road when all the rest of the cottage owners in everyone's area, or at least mine, all chip in and do the maintenance on their road with their own money. And I mean, yeah, you have 8 full-time residents, but I can go around my lake and I probably have a whole lot more than that. And I believe we're opening a can of worms. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor LeBlanc?
I guess I don't have anything else to say because Councillor Martha Roberts has definitely put exactly the words what I was thinking. It's valley waste and road maintenance are 2 different issues, and we don't do private roads because we'd be over the top. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I'll quickly interject a word or two, then I'll go to Councillor Gunn. The cottage bins are going to continue to come up as an issue, I think, again and again, because we sort of inherited a real jigsaw puzzle of solutions that have been in place and negotiated very piecemeal by Valley Waste. We know that the levels of compensation, for instance, for people who are looking after different bins are sometimes wildly different depending on where they happen to be, and there isn't any consistency. I think, and we sort of have been addressing these as they arise. But I think that probably the full solution is at some point we need to have a motion to make to have staff draft a policy to address exactly how the municipality will engage citizens over these cottage bins, what service we will provide, what service we won't provide, and what the expectations on the homeowners on those private roads should be. But I think that until we have a policy, we're going to keep butting up against this. And every single time we'll have this kind of a discussion because we're trying to make things fair and equal right across the municipality, but we've got very, very different solutions that are in place across the municipality. So we need some consistency. Councillor Gunn?
Thank you. Yeah, and I, couldn't agree more. Valley Waste has dumped an awful lot while we were involved with those folks, an awful lot on our table. The garbage bins, the paying for people's road maintenance, and one thing, that's a couple of the items. The other thing that we're going to eventually have to look at is the commercial entities in the county that we're picking up their garbage. Somebody approached me last week and was talking about, oh my God, I can't get my garbage picked up and one thing and another. I said, well, my God, you never want to complain about that because, we're picking up your commercial garbage. You're making that commercially. And the county of Annapolis is paying for it to get rid of your refuse that you're making money on. So, and I said, it's the same thing with the cottage bins. And another friend of mine happened to be there who's got a cottage, who doesn't have a cottage bin at the end of his road. He takes his garbage from his camp home, right? And deals with it there. But there's a lot of people that are entitled and they need the bin at the end of the road because they're at their cottage on the weekend and garbage day's in the middle of the week. So I have to have a place to put my garbage. I think in the end, we're going to have to ditch a lot of that. The bins, the commercial entities that we're paying for their waste, they can write that off on their taxes. But yet we're picking up the tab. Thank you, Valley Waste. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, so the motion's on the floor right now to pay. I believe the way it was phrased initially was to pay annually. Council could amend that motion to make it to address it just this year while the policy is being drafted by staff or something of that sort. If council chose to do so, John.
I think we should specify what it can be used for, in the sense that it can't be used to maintain roads. It can be used to make sure that the bin is clean and it's picked up around there. And if it's $200, then I think that's a fair honorarium to give somebody to do something like that. But that would be the condition for providing the money. And frankly, that should be the policy. It's that you're just getting somebody to help clean it up instead of us paying somebody to go up in a truck and clean it up every time. It's far more costly. It's better. It's more economical for us to support through an honorarium process somebody to do that. And if they're willing to take it on, but that's the condition. We can't do it for other reasons. So I think the policy could be as simple as that.
Thank you, John. Councillor Fowler and then the Deputy Warden.
Well, I was just going to make a motion afterwards to check into a policy for private road garbage pickup. So.
Okay, so let's tie this one off and then I'll turn it back to you to make that motion, Councillor Fowler. Deputy Warden.
When we first started this, we had this discussion about paying people to look after bins. And we were told that we were not going to do that. Because I had bins in my area that people got paid to look after. And I went and we had the discussion and we had discussion at council that we were not going to give honorariums to people to look after bins. And so Janice worked very hard with all the lake residents to take ownership of their own bin. And at some lakes, the people that lived on the lakes bought their own bin because we encourage that they have their own bin and take care of it. So we encourage them to talk to their neighbors, take a bin, take ownership of it, because we were not going to pay an honorarium to one person. And there has been lakes in my area that has done very well, and Janice has worked very hard with them to take ownership. And I know of a lake in Pacific that bought their own bin. The gentleman paid for it. He takes the garbage out to the highway on garbage day, and he does it all. Because that was the discussion at the time when we were talking about these bins, that we were not paying honorariums and we do not pay for maintenance on private roads, because we've even looked at going down these private roads with the garbage truck. And that wasn't an option either, because who is responsible for the maintenance on the road? I also had an association that I brought to council that wanted maintenance for their road. We were told, no, we do not do maintenance to private roads. So I will not support this motion because we've already had this discussion and I feel that the answer has changed from previous. Thank you.
Timothy, if I can clarify.
Deputy Warden, I didn't realize there had been an answer yet. Thank you. John.
But we're not suggesting to pay for a private road uptake at all. That's not even in the discussion, I don't think, from our perspective. But the bins that went to the cottage areas and those private roads, the county spent thousands of dollars on those bins to place them there for private roads. And if they're supposed to look after it, then we have continued to provide support to private road areas on garbage collection. Do we pay anybody? I'm just double checking here to determine
We
exactly.
don't pay anybody any money.
We don't pay anybody any money at this point in time. But we have provided payments for the bins. They don't own the bins. The county owns the bins. Is that my?
Right.
Councillor McDonald?
The ones that we
Oh, sorry.
purchased.
Yeah. The ones that the county purchased, we own those bins.
But the green ones
Right.
are owned by EFR.
And the green ones are owned by EFR.
And they're
Right, but there are bins that have been put on lake roads by the residents. Is there not, Janice?
Yes, so some roads, some lake groups have put their own bins there, which is something we like to encourage,
Right.
especially for the smaller groups when there's like, I don't know, 1 to 5 down, 6 or whatever, half dozen.
All right, Councillor McDonald?
But there's still bins that we're paying for in that particular area.
I don't know what particular area, like in general.
So we paid for bins
We paid for bins, so
up
we,
along Highway 8. We paid for bins up along
number 10,
number 10
and some over on the North Mountain.
and some over in the North Mountain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
I've
sorry,
got-
but we
I've
don't
got
have a new
Councillor
bin.
McDonald, Councillor Morrison, Councillor Fowler. Councillor McDonald.
Sometimes when a councillor seconds a motion, it's to support the motion so it can come up for this sort of discussion. And I seconded that motion, but it has brought forth a lot of discussion. And as I have, I'm not aware of any lakes in District 2 with private cottage owners and bins. I don't think I have any. But now that I hear all these, I think this topic is much bigger than, and I personally think it would be unfair to one lake to receive a check from the county and the others. I think this is entitled to a few hours of a workshop and then maybe another committee of the whole and followed up by another council meeting maybe before next spring. If it helps, I could withdraw my second, or, you know, I'm not going to vote for it either.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. This has been a great discussion, 90% of which has not been germane to the motion before us. But I've really been educated, and I think folks who talk about a policy are on the right track, and I think my colleagues who talk about having a workshop are on the right track. My main purpose for speaking is to speak in defense of those folks who don't have a lake, but who have very long driveways, some of which are not capable of being traversed by the garbage trucks. So on garbage day, they take their garbage down their very long lane, down their driveway, and they put it on the side of the main road, and the garbage is picked up to look after it themselves. I'm intrigued by the idea of a workshop, and I'm in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, I just want to say that if they took their garbage bin and put it out the road, there'd be one heck of a mess. From garbage day to garbage day, where outsiders are piling garbage, and also animals getting in. That's all.
All right. Okay. So there's no further discussion. Oh, Dawn, please go right ahead.
We have a waste bylaw that should be reviewed since circumstances have changed. And so I wondered if it might be perhaps appropriate to review the whole bylaw as part of the workshop rather than one isolated issue. We did not include the provision for monies to look after the bins at the time the bylaw was put in place because we were going through an interim period. The discussion at the time was that bins would be a privilege and they would be put in place at the expense of the county if they were maintained and pulled if they were not. Your circumstances have changed, so a workshop on the entire bylaw would seem to be quite appropriate.
All right. Thanks very much.
Question.
I'd make that motion.
No, question.
We've got a question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, in the motion made by Councillor Fowler, signify by saying aye.
Could we have the motion, please?
Councillor Fowler, could you read your motion once more for us?
I move that we give the Sand Lake Committee $200 annually for road maintenance to get the garbage out.
All right,
out to pick up.
that was the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. Nay.
Nay.
Nay. Nay. Nay.
Motion defeated. Councillor Gunn, did you want to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we we set a date for a workshop on our, as Don quoted, our waste bylaws, and go. Is it bylaw or policy? You help me out here, folks.
It's a bylaw.
It would be our bylaw. So we have a workshop to go over and look at our waste bylaws and what they're going to be in the future. Thank you.
All right.
I'll make that
I'll
motion.
second that.
Councillor Gunn to set a date for a workshop on our waste bylaw, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion on the motion. Let's pick a date, folks, shall we? We have this, let's see.
January?
Probably not unsensible.
Do you folks want to have this, do you want to set this for before the election, or you'd like to set it for after the election?
Before, if possible.
My opinion is,
I'd rather see it after.
I was
We're
gonna say,
busy.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's, Carolyn, we had decided to hold workshops on a specific day of the month, in the months when we held them. Was it the last Tuesday of the month? Was that what?
It was the fourth Tuesday of the month.
The fourth Tuesday. So how about we say, oh, that's,
Fourth Tuesday of October.
or the fourth Tuesday of November, because that way council will have been sworn in on the 10th. They'll have had their first council meeting. They get their first workshop on the 24th of November.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's put it there. Let's make it at 10 o'clock.
What's the date?
That is,
24.
that's right.
24? Good.
Wanda's got her hand up, Warden.
Wanda?
I just would like to remind everyone that there will be a very huge meeting for nominating committee with regard to all of the applications that it may receive for citizen member appointments. And that would need to take place on the 23rd, 24th, or 25th of November, so as to meet the December deadline for committee of the whole. Just wanted to let you know.
Thanks very much for that. All right, so all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
And
What was the date? What was the date again? Sorry.
24th of November at 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Councillor Fowler?
yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter to the Sand Lake Committee, just explaining what's going on with this thought of discussion of private road garbage pickup.
All right. So moved by Councillor Fowler to send a letter to the residents of Sand Lake to explain precisely what, Councillor Fowler?
How we're dealing with the garbage, how we're going to deal with the garbage, or whether we are going to deal with the garbage or not, or whether there is going to be a cost or a payment to the committee.
According to, because council defeated the motion, there won't be any payment forthcoming for road.
No, I know. I know that.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it would make more sense to have such correspondence sent out to each of the communities that have cottage bins after council has an opportunity to review the bylaw in November.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, well, maybe we'll leave that, because correspondence will have to be sent following that workshop in order to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay.
Right. Okay, let's go on in that case. Next topic is Delat's Cove and Young's Cove coastal policy.
Move that 7 days.
Athletic Society grant application.
Sorry.
What?
Athletics.
And you're
I
off
think we've
topic.
missed D. I think we've missed D, Carolyn.
Yeah, we did miss
Yes.
D.
Oh, yeah, you skipped ahead.
Yeah. Okay, Deputy Warden.
Okay. I move that 7 days notice being given for municipal council to approve AM-1.4.16 DeLapp Cove and Youngs Cove coastal policy as circulated.
Second by Councillor Hemming. Discussion the motion. Deputy Warden.
So could we just have a brief overview of this policy? I've read it several times, but I was wondering if Dawn could just give us a brief overview of, I mean, does this prohibit people from using this if we turn it into a park, or are we going to turn it into a park?
Can I just excuse me for a moment? I just would like the caller that I just admitted to the room, please identify yourself. Phone caller.
Deborah Ryan.
Thank you.
Deborah Ryan.
Thank you. I was about to ask the same question. Thanks, Carolyn. Go ahead.
So
Dawn.
perfect timing, Deborah, because we
Okay.
are dealing with the new policy regarding DeLapp's Cove and Youngs Cove coastal policy. And my involvement was really on the policy level and subsequent to the commitment that was made to the presentation in January. And then much of the content and background was developed by Deborah. So it would be far better for me to hand off to her than for me to give an overview and specifics as to how it will work.
And that's my question, is how, if this policy is implemented, then how is that piece of property going to be developed, I guess?
Well, we're talking two properties. One is DeLapp's Cove, so nothing will change there because we have the DeLapp's Cove Wilderness Trail, and we will continue to operate the way we have. The second parcel is at Youngs Cove, and even if we do not develop anything, it's still under the protection. But even if we do put it under development, we would maintain the integrity of the intent of this policy.
Further questions? Councillor
Does
Hemming.
does that answer your question?
Well, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Hemming.
Yeah, I think I guess it's page 26 on the policy intent, in my estimation, is a very concise statement of what this is all about. And it lays out that we will continue to be managed in a manner that provides outdoor recreation, tourism, educational, and cultural opportunities while protecting the biodiversity. It's really clear, and why I strongly support this is a real opportunity to provide a leadership role in a partnership with the federal government on protecting biodiversity without implementing vast changes in the way these properties have been used. So I just think it's a win-win, but that policy intent, I think, is very clear.
All right.
Thank you.
Further discussion. Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. I'm looking on page 27. I have two questions, but first question is, we have the PID number on that page. Is that a photo of DeLapp's Cove or Youngs Cove? An aerial view. Which one is it?
Deborah, you can't see it, of course, so you would have seen the package, I would think.
First photograph or the second?
On page 27, I only have one photograph.
That's Youngs Cove.
Is that Youngs?
The first one is DeLapp's Cove.
Yeah, first one's DeLapp's Cove.
DeLapp's
second
Cove.
one-
There's two parcels there, and the next one is Youngs Cove.
Yeah, there's almost 7 parcels for the DeLapp's Cove section, and at Youngs Cove, there's a single parcel, approximately 40 acres, and it's still undeveloped.
So I'm still confused. On page 27, that I have only one picture and it's outlined in green.
Okay.
What is that?
So
is it
just let me just clarify for a moment, please. If you received a print package of the agenda there is only one photo in it because the other one was a larger one. I believe this is the Young's Cove only with PID ending in 480.
Yes, okay,
Yes,
so this is Young's Cove.
Nice piece of property.
Okay, and just a little thing, thank you, Carolyn. Just a little thing on page 24, the last paragraph. The municipality of Annapolis County has been in the provisions of parks and open space planning since in the early 80s. So just reading through that, I started page 24, and I don't know if the top, it's been repeated twice. I believe that does not need to be there. I didn't see anything different. And I think this is a good thing of protecting this land for people to use. And,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
Same paragraph is printed twice.
Doesn't need to be there.
yeah, yes, it is.
And I
We
agree
can
that
make that adjustment.
this is a perfect way to protect the land, and I agree with Councillor Hemming. Thank you.
Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. Just for clarification, I'm looking at the first map there, and that has Charles Brook on it, Delapse Cove, this one. And I'm looking to the Bowacre Brook up in that direction, to the eastern. Do we already own those properties that are red? Those
Yes,
six
we do.
properties? We do. That's amazing. I
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, there's 6 on the Bowacre side,
Yeah.
and there's Charlie's. Yes, we have. We've been doing.
Do we have a trail
land
there
development.
now?
Yes, we do. Bowacre Trail.
Is it marked?
But well, if you look at the first 3 parcels where the parking lot is, which
Yeah.
would be where it says 2080, I think
89, yeah.
2089. Then that's the parking lot. And then we acquired about 3 years ago 2 parcels to the west of the parking lot, which are the 2 additional ones there. And so we have been doing land assembly, and the one on the far side of Bowacre Brook there was the one we acquired from the Meyer family. It was 10 acres. It was donated to us free. We did have to survey it. There were some costs, but it was 10 acres of land, and it forever preserved the west side of the Bowacre Cove and the falls.
Okay. So when I'm
that
looking.
was done 10 years ago.
So just to get my bearings straight on this map, please. Just before the 3 little strips there, that's where Charlie Marsman's place was.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay,
We
so
border on Charlie.
now I have my location. Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know. Thank you so much.
Further discussion, folks? Any further questions about the policy? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Let's go on to separate committee policies to replace AM 1.36 advisory committees and boards policy.
We have the Annapolis County Athletic.
Please.
Brand,
Athletics
do we
is
not?
I've had that on my screen for the last little while and just skipped past it. Okay, let's go ahead and do that one. Thank you.
The Committee of the Whole recommends to Council to approve a grant in the amount of $5,000 from the Capital Projects Assistance Program, Small Project Matching Grants, to the Annapolis County Athletic Society to assist with upgrading the space and equipment in their new training space in accordance with AM-1.4.9 Community Grants Policy.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Gunn. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Sherry.
Just wanted to point out that on the bottom, it says the budget currently has 30,000 in it. That's where we initially started before any of the grants today. So off of that comes the 2,000 for the artists, the 500 for the Fort George, and the 1870 for the Mumbling. So there's a difference of almost, well, $4,370. So basically you're looking at a balance of about 20,000 in that community grants when we're done if we approve this. I just wanted to point that out because it was incorrect.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sheridan. Appreciate your clarifying that for us. Further discussion. Councillor Gunn. You're muted, Councillor Gunn.
I'm not the only.
Here we go.
Who is the Annapolis Athletic Society? That's what I'm trying to. I've never heard of them before.
Yeah, the organizers. They've been around. They've been around for the last several years. They've grown into a very active organization. John Ray Lawrence. Actually, Deborah, if you're still on the line, maybe you can give us the list of all the names of the organizers.
Well, they were formed in 2017 as a response to the fact that we were working towards a athletic track, and they're responsible for the training and development of young athletes across Annapolis County and beyond. And their mandate is really to raise the profile of track and field, to encourage fitness training of not just athletes, but anyone else that would like to, from seniors to what have you, and to connect. Basically, they're supporting track and field. Athletics is another name for track and field. So it's the new name. It's been around a long time, and it's something to get used to. But basically, it's to promote and develop athletics and track and field in Annapolis County and beyond.
So this group,
what they're doing here is quite unique, because they acquired some fitness equipment a couple of years ago, and they set up a center, but it was too small, and it was not in a building that was probably conducive to the development. This facility is right across from the complex, the Sport Hub complex, so it's strategically located and very, very, very progressive on an organization to open a fitness center with appropriate equipment and have you. So they're renovating it right now.
All right. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you.
Hardly an answer.
Oh, do you have something specific?
Councillor Gunn, could you state that again, please? And if you'd like further information.
You explained what I guess they're fixing. So this is the group actually that sponsored the track. We're looking for the track to get built. Is that what we're getting out of this? Is that what I'm getting out of this?
I believe this is a group
No, they're okay. Go ahead.
They're not the group that came to us and presented at council a few years ago to get us to support the track. Because there was a group that came to council and
was the committee that was actually worked with the province.
That was the committee.
I think this group developed alongside it, and there are a lot of people who are on that committee so there's some shared responsibility here. But this is a group that really developed because the track was being developed, as opposed to the group that spurred the development of the track. The committee that worked with the province and that worked with Deborah, they were the generators of the idea of the track to start with. That's my understanding. Is that fair, Deborah?
Athletics in Annapolis County was created after the advisory committee was created to look at the development of the park, but they developed independently of the advisory committee, and their role is really to train young athletes in Annapolis County, and included in that is obviously their ongoing fitness. So they've taken on this additional task, which is usually fairly progressive in this organization. But no, they were not the group that came, but they have been supportive of the advisory committee and been sitting on it. And it's people like John Ray Lawrence, it's Stephen Young, it's Ryan Elmore. They're all coaches for young development. Stephen's from Lawrencetown, John Ray is from Clarence area, and Ryan Elward is from the Middleton area. But they're committed to the regional track in Bridgetown.
Thank you very much. Anything further, Councillor Gunn? Okay, Councillor Morrison, and then I'm going to go to the Deputy Warden and Councillor LeBel.
Thank you. I notice on page 33 of 167 that of the $25,832 for the project, 10,000 of it is pending. I know the amount looked for from the Parker Mountain wind turbine. I think that might be above the maximum that organization gives, or it's very close to the maximum that organization gives. In other words, what will the organization do if it does not receive all of the contributions, applications for which are pending? Does anyone know, will they carry on with a certain portion of the work, or will they abandon the whole thing?
Deborah, can you answer that?
No, yeah, they won't abandon it. What they'll do is they'll step up their fundraising efforts. They've been doing a lot of fundraising throughout since 2017, and they'll continue to do so. And but what they will do is that they'll cut back on certain projects that they can do, but they'll still continue with the fitness project. And so maybe it won't, but they will get the project done because they have been a proven organization all along, and they'll set in place some fundraising efforts.
Thank you.
They're very resourceful.
Thank you, and I know that I am in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. John, you wanted to interject?
Yeah, I think with this is a world-class facility, and you have an association that'll be tied into the provincial association and the national association. And that's so critical where it's right across the street. It's going to help in a lot of ways. It's going to help with understanding the programming of the field. It's going to help with understanding the requirements for athletes and their insurance and when to participate and all the rules around hosting events. I think it'll be very helpful for that organization. And I think what they'll do as a volunteer group is immeasurable goodwill. That's hard to put a dollar figure on it. If we were to do it on our own, it would cost us a lot of money. And I think having them in place will only assist Annapolis County and the citizens that are going to be using it.
Thank you, John. Deputy Warden?
So is there, is that in the old school bus garage?
No, it's not. It's, you know where the car wash facility is?
Okay, it's across the road that way, okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's directly across the road, which is
yeah.
great, frankly.
It's where Tri-County
Yes.
Transportation used to be? Albert Rice's old building?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. It was purchased by John Ray Lawrence.
Yep.
Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes, thank you. I was just going to say that this is an opportunity that to help these people that are volunteering their time and their effort to keep our young children and seniors and every age in between to use the facility and do some training and get expertise. I did have an opportunity the other day at the opening of the field to speak with Ryan Elmore, which seems to be the vice president of the organization. And he was definitely telling me how this year they have the highest numbers that they've ever had for track and field, and that they're way over 50. Well, they have 50 because they couldn't take more because of COVID, and they're quite happy to want to open it up when they do have the time to open up to more people. So I think this is a worthy cause. If it helps all these students out in the future, that we're going to have some competitions being run there, so they have all the things that you need on hand, and right across the street, that's an opportunity in itself. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Further discussion? Councillor Hammond.
I just want to say briefly, I strongly support this, and my reading is this is starting to unfold as a hub in Bridgetown around athletics, and so this will give that hub a boost, and I think it's a good use of the dollars.
Thank you. And just speaking briefly as a councillor myself, I'm really strongly supportive of this too, both for the reasons that were articulated by John Ferguson. When we have a world-class facility like this, and you got a well-developed, experienced community organization with a lot of people who've got deep backgrounds in coaching, who want to be involved and will help manage a lot of the use of the track, that's an enormous advantage to the county to have them in place. They're sort of your local experts on things to do with track and field, and they're right directly adjacent. And second, they've had such a significant impact on the Bridgetown community just over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. If you spend a lot of time in Bridgetown and talk to seniors, an awful lot of seniors have participated in some of the training programs that they've had. They're contributing to active, healthy living and a healthier lifestyle for our residents. They're encouraging activity in one of the few completely COVID-friendly sporting activities that's available to our youth right now. And they're having an enormous impact on our young people too. So I'm definitely supports anything we can do to support that group serves to further support the sports hub itself, which is really going to be critical, I think, for the operation of the community of Bridgetown. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. So will they supply that with this thing across the road, the sports hub across the road, will they supply the washroom facilities for that? And will we have to put a crosswalk in there? Thank you.
Deborah?
Well, excuse me, sir. It comes to washrooms, no. It's too far away for washrooms. We're renovating our tennis court building, is my understanding, to create wheelchair accessible washrooms for the complex.
And what was the second part of your question, Councillor Gunn?
Oh, and will we have to put a crosswalk in there? If we're going to have
I think there's yes, there is a crosswalk there now. Well, wait a minute. I'll have to ask Steve McGinnis on that one, but normally that's the street coming up, and it was the old school. So I assume as people come both sides of the sidewalk up along from Bridgetown, depending on what side you came, whether it's the west side or east side, I assume there's a sidewalk, and I think it's just before you get to Fay Street or Fay Road.
Yes.
But I have to check on that.
Deborah, I believe that's correct. There's a fairly well-marked crosswalk right there. Thank you for that, Councillor.
Yeah, the crosswalk is further up. One crosswalk is further up. I don't believe there's one from the corner of Bay Road over to that site. There's one that crosses Granville Street and Bay Road, but not on the school side. But I don't believe that crosswalk crosses from Bay Road to that site. The one that does is further up the road.
So a request may come forward in that case to add a crosswalk in there potentially.
Possibly, yes.
Okay. All right.
Directly across. Thank you.
Any further discussion, folks? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. All right, so next, let's go to the RFD for separate committee policies to replace AM 1.3.6.
Move that 7 days notice being given for municipal council to amend AM-1.3.4 citizen appointments to committees policy as circulated.
Seconder for the motion. Pardon me. Sorry, seconder for the motion? Second by Councilor Sheridan. Discussion on the motion. I did note one thing, and I'm just going to have to find the right part. Let's see, it's for the economic development strategy policy, which one is that one?
That's probably committees of council.
Committees of council, there we go. Sorry, I had the page up here just a moment ago. I noted as I was going through that that for the Economic Development Committee, it's set up here, and I think this is probably a holdover from the previous, but it's been set up as a standing committee of council with a regular meeting, and I'm not certain that that's the best way to approach it. There you go. Oh, here it is. It's on page 53. All right, so it says regular meetings of the Economic Development Committee should be held at council chambers, and it gives them the third Monday of every month commencing at 7 p.m. Except there should be no regular meetings for the month of August and December. And this really establishes the Economic Development Committee as a standing committee of council. And I'm not, at the moment, our official structure is a committee of the whole structure, which means that council assembles as a body to deal with almost the vast majority of its work. We do have some ad hoc committees which meet as requested by council in order to consider and provide advice on some specific issues. part of the reason that we have a committee of the whole structure is because in the past, when we've had standing committees to deal with things like finance, economic development, and strategic planning, what often winds up happening is you have a group of councillors who are able to meet and pre-consider potential policies or initiatives, and when they come back into council, there's often a division that emerges in council because of that. That some councillors feel as though other people have had sort of an unfair opportunity to get inside information and to present something fait accompli to council. I know that in our last administration, this became sort of an issue just in the first couple of years, and it was no one's intention that it should be that case. But you certainly don't want the impression that a handful of councillors set agenda for the rest of council, which is largely why we meet with the committee of the whole structure. I think we definitely have need of an economic development committee, but I think my feeling is that it should be ad hoc as opposed to standing. Part of the advantage also of ad hoc is ad hoc doesn't require staff support, whereas a standing committee does require staff support. But anyway, I just thought I would put that out there for council's consideration. Councillor Henning?
You know, as chairman of that committee, I mean, I strongly, I support what you just said, Warren. I thought we had made those changes at one time a while ago to take it away, to remove its standing committee status. I thought we'd already done that.
Yeah.
This surprises me a little, but I agree with you. I don't think it's necessary to have that. Not useful.
Well, in that case, if that's, pardon me, Dawn, perhaps you can speak to this.
I'll just add a little bit of clarity. Wanda and I had a somewhat similar discussion, but there was never a consensus or a motion. You discussed doing that, but it was never put in a motion. That's why it was never removed from the policy. And Wanda and I, when we were discussing it, said, we hope they pick up on that and give us direction what they want to do.
I'm going to ask in that case for an amendment to the policy to remove sections 31 and 32. Moved by Councillor Henning. Seconder for the motion, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much for that. Further discussion.
Wanda has a question.
Wanda, go ahead, Wanda.
I believe we had a motion with regard to 7-day notice on the citizen appointments to committees policy.
Exactly.
What we're talking about right now, we've jumped down into the committees of council policy.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yes.
So I was a little confused
Yeah.
what we were discussing. Anyway, just pointing that out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is
We
the same language present then in the separate committees policies that we find here? Is that language in the separate policies? I've looked at the wrong page, but it's the same information, I think.
Dawn has made various changes to different policies. And the first policy that the deputy warden moved and was seconded by Councillor Sheridan had to do with amendment to the citizen appointments to committees policy. Then there are three other motions with regard to changes in policy.
Understood. Thank you. All right. In that case, perhaps we should hold that until we.
Can you withdraw that motion to remove 31 and 32 until it's in a spot where it makes sense?
Until the correct spot. There's there's almost 100 pages in here. Councillor Henning. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we can withdraw or go ahead and leave it stand. I mean, even though we jumped ahead, either way is fine with me. We'll certainly withdraw it, or we can leave it at passed.
Then you need to state that you're removing section 31 and 32, which policy you're removing that from. Is it the committees of council policy?
On reflection, I think it's clear to withdraw that and stay in the order of the five motions that have to be made.
Yeah.
Thank you. My apologies. I hadn't realized I jumped ahead again. All right. Further discussion.
So are the mover and seconder withdrawing that motion?
Yes.
Yes, they both are.
Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Could you please reread the motion on the table right now, Carol?
Motion on the table right now is, it was moved by Deputy Warden Roberts, seconded by Councillor Sheridan, that 7-day notice be given for Municipal Council to amend AM 1.3.4 citizen appointments to committees policy as circulated.
Correct. Christian?
Thank you. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you. And the next one?
I move that 7 days notice being given for municipal council to amend AM-1.3.5 committees of council policy as circulated.
All right. Seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc.
McNeil.
Discussion on the motion? And I believe this is where the amendment would come into play. If Councillor
Right.
Hinman can make that motion to amend.
Yes, I make that same motion to amend I made earlier.
Thank you very much. Seconder for the amendment, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Discussion on the amendment itself.
Seconded by who, sorry? Morrison?
Morrison, yes.
Sure.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to amend signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much. And on the motion itself, further discussion? Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I only have one of these documents in front of me. But on the first page of the document we are now considering, does it have a section that says definitions? On the front page.
So for AM 1.3.5?
Yes. But on the front page, does it have a section definitions?
Yes. Page 42.
Yes.
Does.
Thank you. And so under that, there is a paragraph called term of appointment, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm very much in favor of this wording if I have interpreted it correctly. If I am a member of a committee, I remain a member of that committee until a successor is appointed.
That's my understanding.
So current committee membership remains until we decide on the new committee membership.
Yes.
Next.
And that is the status quo that's existed pre.
Okay, but next.
But the wording is cleaner in this.
Yes. I am the Annapolis County representative to the Board of Trustees of the Annapolis Valley Regional Library System. Will I, all things being equal and conditions being favorable, will I remain in that designation until we receive and approve the report of the nominating committee?
That would be how I would interpret this, Councilor Morrison.
So that appointment is not under committees of council. So we're sort of jumping ahead to another policy again, but I'll answer it for clarity, which is as part of streamlining the system, I'm trying to make the procedures the same for all external and internal.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks so much. And next, audit committee policies.
I move that 7 days notice be given for municipal council to amend AM-1.3.5.1 audit committee policy as circulated.
Seconder for the motion.
McNeil.
Councilor McNeil, thank you. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. And finally,
I move that 7 days notice being given for municipal council to repeal AM-1.3.6 advisory committees and boards policies and approve the following replacement policies. AM-1.3.1 3.6.1 Ad hoc Citizens Advisory Committees Policy. AM-1.3.6.2 Annapolis County Planning Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.3 Heritage Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.4 Police Advisory Board Policy. AM-1.3.6.5 Bridgetown Source Water Protection Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.6 Bridgetown Area Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.7 Cornwallis Park Area Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.8 East End Area Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.9 Granville Ferry Source Water Protection Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.10 Habitation Community Area Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.11 Lake Katy Source Water Protection Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.12 Lake Katy Water Supply Area Advisory Committee. AM-1.3.6.13 Lawrencetown Water Supply Area Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.14 Margarettsville Source Water Protection Advisory Committee Policy. AM-1.3.6.15 Margarettsville Water Supply and Area Advisory Committee Policy, and AM-1.3.16 Upper Clements Area Advisory Committee Policy.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Seconder.
Could you repeat that just one more time, Deputy?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, good.
I'm so sorry, there was no easy motion for that.
Seconded by Councillor Fowler.
Could you tell me the page? Thank you. What page did you just read that off? You know, I'm sitting here, Martha.
41.
41.
Pardon me?
41.
That's page 42 of 167.
No, 41.
Depends if you have a print copy in front of you
That's the issue.
or
I
if
have a
you're looking
computer
at the one
copy
on
in
your
front.
computer.
I have a computer
On the computer, Councillor Gunn, it's page 42.
It's page 42 on the computer. Jesus. Pardon my language.
All right. Further discussion on this? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Would folks like to, it's 11:15, so we've been going for about an hour and 45 minutes. Would folks like to pause for 10 minutes to stretch your legs and a glass of water? Let's take a 10-minute recess and reconvene at 10:55. All right, thanks very much. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'd like to continue now. We've had a letter from the Police Association of Nova Scotia with reference to their 50th annual crime prevention guide, and they're asking if we would like to advertise in that publication.
Have we sponsored that before?
No, in the past, it's been pointed out that this is an association of police association. Councillor McNeil might be a little more clear.
Municipal police association.
Municipal police associations, and we are governed under the RCMP. So you have not done this in the past.
Okay. So in that case, perhaps Councillor would like to make a motion to receive for information. Deputy Warden? Deputy Warden?
I move to receive this for information.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gunn. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by, oh, Councillor McDonald? Oh, you're muted, Councillor. You're on mute. John? You're on mute.
Of course. Thank you very much. It's not a big discussion on the motion, but I need to know what page we're on.
We are on page
14.
114. If you've got the online version, it's 114.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm prepared.
Oh, I thought you'd had a hand raised before, Councillor LeBlanc. Any further discussion on the motion?
No, we're good.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Next, Cotw Playground, and I think probably Councillor Sheridan is going to speak to this.
Yes, a few months ago, and I thought there was a motion made, and I went looking and I cannot find a motion. But in regards to an additional piece of property next to the playground in Cotw for parking, I know it was discussed, and I thought I had made a motion, but I can't find it. So it was in regards to have staff look into it because there's a new developer that took over the rest of the subdivision in Lorcon. And I know we talked about it, but it just never got into a motion apparently. So just if anybody remembers, but or I can make a motion today.
I vaguely recall a discussion about it, but I don't remember the specific motion. Do you have a motion prepared?
I don't have one prepared, but we can wing it. Could I make a motion to have staff look into, have the CAO have staff look into additional piece of property for the Cotw Playground for parking? And I don't know if they need the new developer's information, or I'm thinking somebody has it already.
I don't think that has to be part of the motion, but certainly I'm certain staff would appreciate if that was provided. Do you want to second?
Okay.
Councillor Fowler? Seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion of the motion. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. Can you tell me where this is on the agenda? Sorry.
On the agenda, it's item 4I.
What page?
There's no paper portion to this.
In the agenda, but it is.
So there's no paper portion. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor LeBlanc.
So basically, is this to look for purchasing a piece of land to have parking?
Correct. And and I know we discussed it prior, but I just couldn't find the motion that was made or thought was made.
Yeah, so is that land, like, I mean, I know there's a road going into the park, and so the people don't park on the road, they park.
That's correct, because people are parking along the highway there, or along the subdivision road, and there's one in behind there's vacant land behind the playground that the developer is the developer is willing to work with the county. I don't know what the price would be or anything, but that would be something the staff.
So it's like cleaning up the land and trees and whatever in the back.
I think I'm not sure how much clearing you'd have to do, but it's definitely doable.
Okay.
Thank you.
And what was the motion?
So the motion was to direct. Councillor Sheridan, you can say it again if you wish.
The motion would be to have the CAO direct staff into looking into purchasing a piece of property near the Cotw Playground in Lorcon subdivision, something along that line. Yeah.
Would there be a cap on that we're going to put out for money?
Well, they'd be bringing back information before we have to approve it, like I'm assuming. So.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Just to have look into
it. Okay.
See what options exist in the community.
Absolutely.
Anything further? Deputy Warden, yes.
And I remember that discussion too. I thought it was around budget time last year. We sent it to budget deliberations, but I'm not positive that there was a motion towards that. But I mean, that playground over there is well used. The kids enjoy it. They take care of it. And from what I recall, ever since it's been built, they have been asking the county to try and negotiate with the landowners to have a parking lot for the residents to park. And to me, it would be a good investment because it's a well-used park and it gets the kids out, and it's a nice laid-out park.
Thank you very much. Further comment? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Next, Basin View Audit Review.
Me as well. On last committee of the whole package, it was on there, the audit review, but it was so large. I believe Mr. McGinnis asked if we could do a workshop, which we did. And the results have never been brought back for the residents to understand what happened. I had a few questions asked about what's been going on with the audit. So I think it's only fair that the residents know how much it is going to cost, like what the review, the engineer reported in the 20-year period, the $13 million that will cost taxpayers to maintain the building. And that's not the operational cost. That is quite a bit per year as well, anywhere between 600 to 800,000 per year to operate. I think council needs to have a discussion on what we're going to do with the building. Like, I know it's cheaper to build a new one, and I have a hard time supporting putting more money into this building because of where it sits right now, the shape that it's in, as opposed to building a new facility. So I don't know if you want to open it up for discussion.
Do you have a motion you'd like to make in order to open it for discussion?
Well, yeah, okay. I can make a motion that, as it stands right now, not to put any more capital money into the Basin View Center until further discussion.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. Discussion on the motion. Deputy Warden first, then Councillor Morrison.
And I agree with that. I mean, it was recommended to have a lot of studies done, and we're in the process of having one done on soil testing. And I support not spending any more money there until we have all the engineering and consulting information brought before us. And it is a lot of money. And we need to make a decision whether it's feasible or whether it's not. And I would like to have the information in front of me to make the best decision on what we should do with that building.
Now,
thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you very much. And I thank my colleague, Councillor Sheridan, for placing this item on the agenda. I feel, however, that if I had known what was involved as a result of placing the item on the agenda, that it would have been good to have some indication of the direction in which the discussion was being pointed. I'm certainly not saying that council has been caught off guard, but except perhaps for one or two people, no one knew exactly what this was about. My recollection is that we had a discussion and we approved, I'll call it certain testing. We also had a discussion about items that needed to be performed. The lack of such performance would lead drastically to a deterioration of the building. And I remember the chief executive officer entering into the discussion with regard for the need not to contribute, not to accelerate the deterioration of the building, but keep it in a usable condition until council had decided to have a discussion and to take a decision from that discussion if council felt it would like to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just for my own recollection,
would like that.
maybe Stephen can clarify. It was also my understanding that the capital work that was being done in the most immediately were all safety related issues. That it was the tie-offs to the roof in particular. But that was slated for the immediate future. Is that correct, Stephen?
Correct. There was a number of projects in the original capital budget before we reviewed the in-depth investigation of the building. So we're following up on that unless direction changes. But as I recall the conversation, we were going to get the soils results and foundation results before council and have a more in-depth discussion about the future of the building. So those test pits were completed last Friday. I'm awaiting the report from the engineering company on the next stage of the recommendations. They did some test pitting originally. They did 4 test pits to determine if they really had to bring in a drilling rig. So I'm waiting for that. And just as a snapshot, the soils went from really good in terms of what they expected to find, foundations, appropriate soils underneath the foundation, drainage, to really inappropriate soils underneath the foundations and soaking wet. So I'm awaiting those recommendations now, but that's my recollection. We're going to see the foundation, what comes out of that, and bring that back to council.
Thank you. Councillor Cotw.
Thank you. Mr. McGinnis has answered most of my questions. I was wondering what the results were, how far along we were with the ground testing. And it was my understanding that there were things we had to do, safety issues on the roof and so on, but that we were cutting back on non-essential money spent there until we got the results of the testing of the soil. Sounds on its way. And I have questions as well about the situation of the building. It would be nice to have all the facts that we need to have before we made a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc, then I've got Councillor Sheridan, the Deputy Warden, and Councillor Gunn. Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. I guess I was blindsided too, because I actually thought it was going to be something that Steve McGinnis would be giving us information on the Basin View audit review. So I'm not quite sure where we're at with this one, because I also understood the same as everybody else. I think that we had made the motion to do the safety issues, because safety is safety no matter how you do it. We couldn't get away from that, because if you know there's a safety issue, you have to contend with it and you have to try to rectify it. So at this point, I guess we have a lot to wait for, and I'll just leave it at that, because we do have to review it.
Thank you. Councillor Sheridan.
So the reason I brought it forth was because I believe we discussed it in a workshop, and you can't make a motion in a workshop. And to my knowledge, no motion was made. This was just all us speaking in the workshop. So I wanted to make a formal motion today so it didn't get lost. That's why it's here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden.
So, and I echo the statements that other councillors have made about doing the safety issues of the building had to be done, which I understand. So is there any other projects that we are still working on in that building?
Stephen, thank you.
The downspouts and the safety harnessing around the roof still have to be done. We're focusing on the foundation one first as the more chronic issue. We do have, because we have existing clients inside the building, if we have an HVAC issue or a plumbing issue that's our responsibility, we do continue to maintain that building. But I'm just had a quick look at the approved capital plan, and those are the only projects that are on the books, other than the additional recommendation going forward on the foundation report.
Okay, well, no, and I was just asking because I read the update on the pool, and I presume that that must be worked on because they had a date that it might be open.
They've opened up the kiddie pool and the therapy pool. They haven't opened the main pool yet. We've left that in terms of that notification and opening process to the YMCA. It's under their jurisdiction, but we're still working on the foundation issue.
As in the foundation issue as of being the ground testing, or you're working on the foundation?
No, they're doing the testing. They did four or five test pits on Friday, and I'm waiting the results from the engineers.
Thank you.
Councillor Gunn?
Thank you. Oh, am I muted here? Oh, no. Thank you. So yeah, we would all like to have a conversation about the Lifeplex down there and what money is going into it. I'm sure most of council would like to have that. And we're waiting for this information. So Steve, my question would be, where's the soil wet? Is the soil wet on the north side of the building or the south side of the building? North side being the pool end. Is that where we have? Maybe it's northwest. Might have it wrong.
Councillor Morrison, point of order. Go ahead.
This is certainly an interesting discussion. And I'm not sure if Mr. McGinnis is going to present an answer to the question, a partial report, a full report, or whether it is possible to answer that question at this time before he submits his report to us. Thank you.
That's something.
Thank you. So the motion that's on the floor before us, moved by Councillor Sheridan and seconded, I believe, by the Deputy Warden, was to suspend all capital work on the project pending the results of testing and the ability of council to have a discussion about it. So the way that motion is phrased right now, it would also suspend any of the safety work that's currently on slate that I believe is the only capital work that's currently on the slate for the building. Is that the intention of the motion?
No, I understood that we had to have the safety hooks and everything up, and I thought that was being done. It's just like if something were to pop up or something, we just didn't want to, I didn't want to see more money go into the building before we had the discussion. So if I could amend the motion to put the safety aspects in place, but to pause on everything else, that would be fine. Thank you.
So okay, I'll go to John. Go ahead, John.
Wayne Fowler's having difficulty getting back on. He's on my phone right now on speakerphone. Wayne, can you say something to see if they hear you?
Hi, Wayne. You're quiet, but we can hear you.
Okay. So just some things I want to outline, and I think a progressive approach, being wise and risk mitigate as we go forward with the basin view. One thing I just want to raise some sensitivities. There are businesses in there, and they would certainly want to see us continue on with the facility and would have concern if we were doing something else. I've already received a couple of calls. The agreement with the YMCA is very, very, very solid, and we're in a contractual arrangement with them to make sure that we look after that facility. We also have a significant amount of memberships to the Y, where people buy the membership. So anything that may change the services that are there will impact their membership list, and so they're always a little bit concerned about that. As council knows, without getting into the detail, we moved to sign a contribution agreement of a very significant project that will create a supply chain. And that's also in cooperation with another entity in Cornwallis Park, would be the conference center. And that's likely not going to begin, like the actual infrastructure work probably won't begin until next year, but some of the planning work and some of the other work leading to that may very well occur. And just as a rule of thumb, and it's not everybody follows this, but when you have a facility, the goal is to keep it open and keep it safe and keep it usable. That's always the goal when you have a public facility that serves as a focal point in the community, which the Basin View Center does in Cornwallis. We even did a little bit of a study on it as it relates to leakage and how does that help in the community. So all this has to come play as we move the project forward. I would suggest that the capital work that may have to occur over the next so many years really should involve provincial and federal governments, and our justifications will be solid as we move forward on those particular issues. So in respect to this motion, I believe that those are the key pieces that we should be moving forward from a planning and a workshop perspective, and not to really do anything until we get that money. I think it is a bit much for the county to take on. But I think it's inevitable that we work towards trying to find the funding for that facility. And it's such a critical facility in that community.
Thank you very much, John. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Which YMCA, sorry, is in control of the Basin View contract? Is that Yarmouth?
But no, it's Bridgewater.
Oh, it's Bridgewater now. It was Yarmouth for the longest time, wasn't it?
No.
No? It's always been Bridgewater.
Fundy YMCA.
Okay. Okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sheridan.
So the way I took it that John, the CAO, was just speaking, he's kind of made a decision that we're going to keep that building, and we haven't even had the discussion. And I'm not in favor of what you said, John. I disagree with what you said. Like, we haven't even had the discussion, but I realize it's very important for the community to have a facility, but we can replace a facility cheaper than we can keep that one. So I feel that I'd still like to put my motion forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Warden.
Well, and that's the impression I got. I mean, I believe that council needs to have a thorough discussion on this building with all the facts in front of them. And I mean, it might be the decision that it be replaced. And I too understand that it is an important part of Cornwallis, and every community wishes they had one. But I believe that we should have the discussion on that particular building before we spend all this amount of money that might be throwing good after, you know, spending money on something that's not stable. And it needs to be discussed, I would say, sooner than later, when we get all the facts in place and present it to us.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Councillor Hemming.
Yeah, in a previous lifetime, I was actively involved in repurposing large anchors in commercial places. What I have learned is the discussion is always more intense than you think it's going to be. It involves many more people than you think it's going to be. But at the end of the day, if the discussion is had, I'm always surprised about the new possibilities that are created. That said, maybe I didn't understand John properly. I didn't think John was saying just go ahead and spend money without this discussion.
That's correct. I think we have to establish a plan. I wouldn't want council to say yes or no, and I would be cautious of saying no, because you've got people that are going to rely on it and they may start to vacate the building.
Absolutely.
That's my concern about how we proceed. I think we should be cautiously optimistic that we can make this happen. I don't know if a new building is cheaper than fixing that building. I don't know that.
Yeah,
Well, can I speak to that? Because I did ask that question to the engineer that day in the workshop, and he said definitely.
Sheridan has the floor, but I'll come right back to you after.
Yeah, I would question the assumption that a new building is always cheaper than renovating an old building, especially when we don't know the extent of the issues. And even the engineer gave us his perspective from an engineering perspective. That's different from an economic development perspective, and it's certainly different from a YMCA perspective. The cost of the building is just not bricks and mortar. That is a major economic driver for Annapolis County. So any realignment of that building is going to have significant impact on those businesses that are there, those businesses that would like to relocate. So that's all part of the discussion. I think what I'm advocating is to go slow, get the information, get the studies done, get the information, then move to the next step. And at some point, it becomes clear that the building is unusable. And that's one conclusion. And if the next conclusion is let's build a new building, then those are all progressive steps that need to happen. But I feel that we're jumping the gun just a little to make major commitments to do anything with that building unless, other than what we have agreed to do, is do the studies, do the safety features, then reevaluate it. Because that building not only serves a big purpose in terms of that of Annapolis County, but is a major draw in terms of attracting federal and provincial money to move forward with a variety of projects. Those all need to go into the mix some way. So I would just encourage us to go slow and let this thing unfold with what we have in front of us now, which is the continued studies and the safety recommendations that have to be done, and then catch your breath and see where we are. That's my thought.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Councillor Sheridan.
Oh, I agree that we have to take our time, but the only motion I was making today was just to halt any additional spending on the building. And then we can have this further discussion. Because when I remember it, the motion, it wasn't really a motion, we were discussing it in a workshop. And it's the same with my previous motion with the playground, I thought was made, but it wasn't. So I just wanted to establish that there was a motion made to curb the spending until we had the further discussions.
Thank you, Councillor Sheridan. I'm going to just speak to this briefly as a councillor as opposed to as the warden. I won't be supporting the motion, though I understand the rationale behind it. There's a couple of reasons. First, as a result of the conversation that we had, staff indicated that what they were looking at doing in the immediate future were those things. So the additional spending on other capital projects associated with the building were not being planned to go ahead in the immediate future. In fact, none of those things would be on the docket until we received the results of the study and been able to have that conversation. So I already had a fair bit of confidence in what staff had assured us was going to take place. Second, I'm very eager to have the conversation where we contrast potential different future visions for what our athletic facility would look like, whether we build a new facility entirely or continue to work with the facility that we have. I want to have that conversation because I think it's very important. But I'd also bear in mind that in the interim, even if we do decide to construct a new facility, that construction would likely be years off, and we would be faced with council as a choice between decommissioning a building and leaving a community with nothing for a space of potentially years, or maintaining it for the space of years until you could open the new facility, which to me would make more sense. When you withdraw service, you can damage a community, and I want to make sure that whatever was going to replace it would be ready to go online before we decommission the old one. So I wouldn't want to tie staff's hands in the case of an emergency that happened in the building just in the near future, because I think that regardless of what our ultimate intention will be, we are going to be in the position of having to maintain that building for at least a space of years. And so I was content with the assurance that staff had given us that we would have that conversation, have those results before anything else major took place. But I don't want to stress hands, and I recognize the necessity, well, to me anyway, of keeping the facility available to the community until we were to replace it, if that's what we chose to do. Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, my idea is the building was never put in the right place anyway. It should be more central to county. And besides that, it's costing a lot of money a day to operate that, like $2,300 a day. I think it's time to, whatever, it should be, I think we should be looking into a new facility, and I don't think we can go any further on this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. Further discussion on the motion? Councillor LeBlanc.
John has a question, and I just want the motion repeated by Carolyn.
Councillor Sheridan, could you read the motion again?
I don't have it written down.
Did you transcribe it? Maybe you can read it for us.
Does Carolyn have it?
It was moved by Councillor Sheridan, seconded by Deputy Warden Roberts, to not put any further capital money into the Basin View Center until discussions occur.
And I believe that...
I thought there was an addition to that motion.
Someone made a motion, it was never seconded.
Okay, so go ahead, Wendy.
I was just gonna, I did say, I don't think it did get seconded, to amend the motion to have the necessary spending on the whatever it takes to keep it safe. Yeah, the safety issues dealt with. Yeah.
Except for dealing with Safety issues?
Safety issues, yes.
Separate issues pertaining to safety. So the seconder for the amendment? Deputy Warden?
McNeil.
Thank you very much. Discussion on the amendment itself. Does anyone have an objection to the amendment? Councillor McDonald, go ahead.
Sir, it's not so much an objection, but I believe the CAO said and Mr. McGinnis that there were no capital expenses other than being looked at now, other than the safety appliances and the testing we're doing. Isn't that correct?
Stephen, go ahead.
We do have, there's, just gonna go to the plan here. Excuse me for a moment. There's a couple, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects that are approved for the basin view. One is the roof guarding, the harnesses. The other one is the shower repair, which is complete. The other one is HVAC repairs, which are ongoing to where routine maintenance won't address it, but we have an issue that's for air supply to an existing customer. We have a project for that. We have the pool building assessment, and we have the geotechnical. Those are the only projects that have been approved, and anything else capital-wise that would that staff would recommend would have to come back to council for approval.
So as near as I can tell, there's no capital expense in the future without coming back to council anyway.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank
You
you.
know, the only one would be that major project
The major?
on here,
Yes.
and the announcements haven't occurred yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one I see. But
we've made a motion to sign. I'm pretty sure.
Councillor Henry?
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think I'm not quite sure where Councillor McDonald was going, but if he was going where I think he was going, I'm in full agreement with what he's saying, that I don't want to cloud where we are now with a series of other motions. I think Steve has laid it out and John has laid it, for me, very clearly on what we're entitled to spend at this moment without additional input from council. And I just think that's quite clear, and I don't want to confuse that by adding thing to what I mean. When I hear what Steve has put forward and what John has put forward, it's very clear to me what we can spend and what we can't spend at this point without coming back to council.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Deputy Warden?
And I understand where everybody's coming from, but we have always been told if we want something a certain way, that there should be a motion made. So it's on record that a motion was made. And then it's not lost.
My only question is if the motion leaves us in a situation which is substantively exactly where we currently are now, is there a point to the motion?
Well, to me there is, because it's a motion that is on record that is what has been made.
Okay, Councillor Sheridan?
So when you just spoke of something that wasn't announced, that's why I'm making part of the motion, because that involves a lot of money. And that is why I want to make the motion. Because that involves money that we haven't even talked about, because I think there's an additional amount there. So that is why I want the motion. Thank you.
All right. If there's no further, so this is on the amendment, folks. All in favor?
Well, I just, for clarification, does that mean I have the county back out of that agreement?
Until the discussion, like we can't put something, I don't know how much I can talk about it. We can't do something if the building is not safe. We need to make sure it's safe before that moves forward. And we need to, we need a discussion, but we need a motion to halt it until we have the discussion.
Just for clarity, folks, where we are right now is on the amendment to the motion, which is an exemption for things that have to do with safety. So could I have the question called for that?
Yes.
All right, all in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. And I'll just, okay, it doesn't matter. Now on the core motion itself, and this is where John's question becomes quite pertinent. And if we're going to discuss this in depth, we should probably go in camera in order to have that discussion, which we could certainly do. Because it has to do with an announcement, it has to do with other entities that haven't given us the ability to speak to this publicly.
We haven't made those other announcements yet.
No, I know. That's precisely why.
That's the point.
That's the point.
It's not.
If you could, I might be able to clarify. If you can go in camera just for a minute, I'll try to help explain. That's all.
I'm going to ask in that case, Councillor Sheridan and the Deputy Warden, if you would both withdraw, because we can't go in camera while there's a motion on the table. So I'd ask if you would withdraw the motion just.
No.
No?
Let's discuss it after, but I think the motion's on the floor. It should be questioned.
All right. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Discussion on the motion.
Discussion on the motion. All right, Councillor Morrison.
I understand fully the comments that have been made by my colleagues, and I take that they were made in good faith, even though we had no indication of what the subject of the discussion was going to be. I also want to make it quite clear that I view that building, it's an economic driver of the county, yes it is. But it is also a building in which occur activities integral to the establishment and maintenance of good health. I understand also that we want to be clear that we will not compromise safety in any way with regard to maintenance of the building. I, as a county councillor, will not countenance, will not agree with, and will always object to any indications that we ought to take actions or not take actions, the result of which would be a deterioration of the building. I would not say that there are some folks who are looking for a self-fulfilling prophecy and looking to hasten that procedure. That building is important to us. What it does is important to us. And we ought to make sure that we take good and prudent and responsible care of it, while at the same time we are discussing the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald and the Deputy Warden. Councillor McDonald.
We've also touched on, and it actually excites me, right? The potential of a more central facility, a new facility, but that is such a big topic. That should involve all our recreation facilities. There are arenas, there are curling rinks, now there's a track facility. There are 2 other municipalities within our municipality that also have recreation facilities that want to talk of them to us. This is a monster topic, which is an excellent topic. And it's going to start with the testing that's going on that facility right now, which we likely could have an answer to by council next week. And I'm sure if Steve has an opportunity, he'll push that green button a couple times to get that to us sooner than later. I want you need to maintain the building with all its tenants the way it is now, but that doesn't involve a large or any capital expenditure beyond what was told us already, safety and the testing. So the topic of recreation facilities and rebuilding or not rebuilding is a very interesting topic for me, and I'm sure many of the residents in the county. And but that's not for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden?
And I agree that, you know, it is important in part, it's a important part of a community, and I understand that. But my concern is we need to know the facts and have a discussion before the money is spent.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's not viable, then we need to have that discussion, because I don't want to spend all this money on a building at the cost of the county's residents. We need to have that discussion with the facts.
Deputy Warden, thank you. And I'll just briefly speak myself as a councillor right here as well. I fully agree we need to have that discussion, but I would say we need to have the discussion before a decision is made that potentially jeopardizes a major initiative of council. We're talking about a 2-week delay. We're talking about no money being spent. It's already been explained to us by staff that no money is being spent on initiatives that aren't associated with the testing of the soil or the safety of the building in the next several weeks. We're going to have that report come back in a few weeks. It seems to me that it's premature to make a decision which would immediately have implications for another major project we've already had a past resolution about, but we haven't even had that information come back. It feels like a way to prejudge the issue, and I object to that, I must confess. I saw a number of hands. I thought Bruce Proud, I think, was first. Councillor Proud.
Thank you. I think the way to go is to wait and see what's going to happen with all of the tests. I'm not as familiar with this building as the rest of council, but my understanding is that we're doing what we need to do, keep things on an even keel. This other pending announcement, I think, is an important one. And I can't support tying our hands with this motion. I understand about throwing good money after bad, and that's certainly a topic to discuss in my mind at a future point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Proud. Councillor LeBlanc?
And I have the feeling of the same. I mean, I guess if we could, the amendment or something should be that we do not tie the hands of our folks working and making it safe at any time. Because if this commission ties their hands on any safety issue, it draws a lot of concern for me. That is my issue. And being we're going to be able to get some kind of review in the next couple of weeks from what I can hear from Steve, I believe that's what Steve is telling us, then maybe we should kind of refrain for now or place it for a 2-week period until we come back and see a review of the report, which is what I expected to see when I saw that actual statement. I thought, okay, great, Steve has a report. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. I think we got ourselves in a bit of a bind here, because as much as I agree with the initiative that we're following with other sources, that's a really good thing, because that would tie in not just the basin view, but another particular building, right? That's a good way we're going there with the, as you know, the burning of the right kind of fuels and things like that. I'm sure you're all following me because I'm trying to talk without going in camera here. So if you're at all following along, I think it's a good initiative to go. I think what we're saying, a lot of us, is let's not plan on spending any new money on that facility, right? Let's not make any new plans for additional monies. I think that's the way. But as far as the initiative with other sources of funding, I think we really actually have to follow that along. John Ferguson, you queried about that earlier. Do you stop that? No, I don't think you stop that at all, because that ties in something else. But maybe and the HVAC, you got to keep that going. I understand that. But if we have to replace a whole bunch of dirt that's washed away under that pool, well, I certainly think that we better come back and have a talk about it at council, because I suspect that's probably what's happened. The leak has washed away a lot of the substrate under it. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But, you know, if that's the case, then we have to have conversation about it. All the safety stuff's got to be done. We can't send people up on that roof without safety lines up there. That's foolish. And you know, it's not right. So, you know, we have to talk about those things. But the building's going to come to a big conversation here in the end. You know, there's a lot of dollars every year that goes into that building year after year. And the one initiative that we're chasing along could probably lessen that amount. So as much as I want to vote with the motion, I'm really quite torn as to whether I can or not. I have to think about it a minute. And that's the great thing about councils and municipalities, is when things come up like this, we can vote on it today, but we're going to vote on it again. And I'm hoping, and there's a sort of a subliminal message here, I'm hoping that that's the way a lot of our motions and decisions work. We never vote on anything once. We should be voting on it twice to ratify things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fowler, Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, well, as far as I'm concerned, I think Wendy should make a notice of motion for council, and we deal with the same motion in council.
Thank you. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure I understand what Councillor Fowler said. If he said what I think he said, then I would pass for now if Councillor Sheridan wished to respond to what Councillor Fowler said. Thank you.
Councillor Sheridan.
I guess my main concern right now is the project that hasn't been announced and the additional money we'd have to put into the Basin View. If we could put a halt on that or push the pause button until we have a discussion, that would be pleasing, because then we'd know no additional money be going there until we had a discussion. We, like, again, we haven't got the results back from the ground. We have so much, millions of dollars that we're going to be looking at putting to that building over the next years. I think before we do anything, including the new project, it needs to be discussed. That's a lot of money.
Thank you. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, and I thank Councillor Sheridan for her remarks. And so my understanding of the situation is we have a motion that says we are going to do what it is we have already agreed to do.
Except, can I just interject here? Except that initial project is included in that motion. So if we go forth with this project, that is included. That's not a capital project. This is an additional project. That's additional money. I just want to make that clear.
Sorry, to tell you the truth, I'm intellectually ignorant of all this talk that's floating about other announcements and agreements. I know absolutely nothing about it.
Oh.
And if the announcements to which my colleagues and the CAO have been referring have a direct bearing on this motion, then I'm not sure how we can vote on the motion until we hear the other information. I'm really bound.
Carolyn, procedurally, can we go in camera while there's a motion on the table?
I believe so.
Sure.
I don't recall seeing anything.
Preventing that?
If
Well,
people can point that out in the rules of order.
All right. In that case, I would accept a motion to go in camera.
Councillor Hemming had his hand up.
Yeah, I'm certainly not in the know as much as Carolyn is on that. But it seems to me at several times we have gone into camera to discuss things that are pertinent to a motion, and I'm happy with it either way. I think there may be some advantage to discuss some of the things in camera. I'm sitting here watching this discussion. It's a very circular discussion.
Yeah.
We are all saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That we're not None of us are prepared to spend money frivolously. We're not prepared to waste money. What we're prepared to do is follow the motions and the direction that we already have at this moment. And so I'm not sure that a motion would get us anywhere. I think to be safe, my suggestion would be withdraw the motion, go into camera, see if the in-camera discussion adds anything to that motion, and then that motion could resurface.
To leave the motion on the floor and just go in camera?
Not sure what item you would go in camera under.
Agreements.
Contract negotiations.
Contract negotiations.
Okay.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to go in camera. Someone like to make it? Moved by Councillor Hemming, seconded by Councillor McDonald. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, I'd like to welcome you back to the open portion of our committee of the whole meeting. So we had been discussing a motion that was on the table. I'll turn things back over to Councillor Sheridan.
So Carolyn, could you read my motion, please?
The current motion on the table as amended reads, Councillor Sheridan moved, seconded by Deputy Warden Roberts, to not put any further capital money to the Basin View Center until discussions occur, except for dealing with safety issues.
Is that the motion you'd like to have stand at the moment, Councillor Sheridan?
So if we add the word defer in front of that, does that change enough to defer any capital spending on the Basin View Center?
Superstructure.
I don't know if I can make any more amendments because I already made an amendment on there, I believe.
But this wouldn't be an amendment on the amendment, so you can have multiple amendments to a motion as long as they don't sort of daisy chain down, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So yes.
Can we use the word defer? Because I believe what you said I had mentioned was to stop. Was it stop or halt?
To not put any further capital money.
Let's defer. Let's use the word defer.
Any new capital expenditures on the superstructure.
So it's pretty much the same motion except for using the word defer.
And the word superstructure.
You're changing the whole, it's easier to do a clean slate.
Okay, could you?
When you start picking phrases out and adding phrases, it's kind of.
Okay, so
Sheridan, how'd you like to proceed?
What was the second portion that we talked about? The other, I don't have it written down, in defer with the superstructure.
To defer future capital decisions on superstructure funding until council formulates a strategy on the Basin View Center building.
So that would be a different potential motion.
That's a suggestion.
Okay, so remove the other one and we'll put that one in.
So you have to withdraw your motion?
I'll withdraw the first one and add the second one.
Does the seconder agree to withdraw the original motion?
No.
Okay. So does that force the vote? Carol, it does, yes? Yeah. All right. All in favor of the motion as it was originally amended, signify by saying aye, and we'll go district by district if that's all right. So District 1.
Just for point of clarification, we're voting on the original motion before?
Yes.
The original motion is amended.
And it was amended to exclude safe things that need to be done for safety. That was what the original amendment was.
No, the original motion had to do safety issues. It had safety issues in there.
That's what I mean. That was the amendment that was added to the original motion because when you first made the motion, it didn't address that. Now it did. It left a provision for those.
Carolyn, read it.
Councillor Sheridan moved, seconded by Deputy Warden Roberts, to not put any further capital money to the Basin View Center until discussions occur, except for dealing with safety issues.
Right.
Nay.
Nay. All right.
District 1, sorry, because I'm not seeing the screen.
That was District 1 was a nay. District 2?
Nay.
District 3?
Yay.
District 4?
I'm sorry, District
Nay.
3 was, I'm sorry.
Was
District 3?
Yes.
Was an A?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. District 4?
Nay.
District 5?
No, nay.
District 6?
No.
District 7 is a no or a nay. District 8?
Nay.
District 9?
Nay, I'm changing my motion.
District 10? District 10?
I don't agree with it. No.
Okay.
And I would like that recorded.
You're voting against the motion?
I
recorded?
agree with the motion that we have made as of right now, and I would like that recorded.
So you're voting A then? You're voting yes?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I'd like my nay recorded, though.
Oh, yeah. All right. And District 11? Yes or no on the motion?
Nay.
Thank you very much. So what's our tally, Carolyn? Or maybe Wanda has it?
2 in favor, 9 against.
All right. So that
The
means
deputy
that
warden-
means the motion is defeated.
The deputy warden.
Councillor Sheridan, if you'd like to make another motion?
Timothy froze. Everybody froze.
I mean, would you like Carolyn to read the alternate, the different wording?
Yes, please.
Carolyn, if you.
Yeah, just give me a moment, please. Motion lost.
Yeah, my connection's coming and going. I may not be here because it's moving around.
Those mine. I think we're all going in and out.
Okay.
To defer capital decisions on superstructure funding until council formulates a strategy on the Basin View Center building.
All right. District 1.
Who moved it and seconded it,
Okay, it
please?
was moved by Councillor Sheridan, seconder for the motion. Councillor DeGunn, very nice.
Thank you.
District 1.
Discussion?
Oh, discussion of the motion, yes. Start off with the deputy warden and then Councillor Morrison.
I will not be supporting this motion because I clearly feel, in my own opinion, that there shouldn't be money spent until we have all the facts in front of us to make a good decision with the taxpayers' dollars.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I will be supporting the motion for a number of reasons, one of which is safety. We need to ensure the safety of the patrons who come to that building daily. To me, that is paramount. Any suggestion that we do not look after the safety is not supportable in my view. And I also draw attention of members of the public.
All right, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of our Committee of the Whole for September back to order. We have one more item of new business on the list. And for this item, I'm going to ask if the Deputy Warden would assume the position of chair for this, because I had this placed on the agenda and I'll make this motion myself as a councillor. Okay. All right.
Next item on the list is lost plate letter.
All right. So the reason that this is on the agenda, I've been contacted, probably most of you have been contacted by some residents. There's a number of parcels of land have been approved for glyphosate spraying. That's a tricky word, glyphosate spraying in Annapolis County. There were a number of parcels that were identified in Kings County as well. In Kings County, there was actually a protest of some duration just outside of Berwick and Brooklyn. And they were successful in having the spraying of that particular parcel of land stopped. The province agreed to halt it. I've been contacted by a lot of residents. 3 of the parcels of land that are currently listed to be sprayed are in West Dalhousie in my own district. And I was asked to take action. So I drafted this and had it put on the agenda. So I'll read out the motion and we can proceed. So, whereas a growing body of scientific evidence indicates a link between the spraying of glyphosate and elevated risk of cancer among humans. And The practice of glyphosate spraying is a grave concern to residents of Annapolis County, and the long-term spraying of glyphosate has potential negative consequences for biodiversity in the ecosystems of Annapolis County. I move to recommend that Council send a letter to the Minister of the Department of Natural Resources and the Minister of the Environment, strongly urging the province to place an indefinite moratorium on glyphosate spraying in Annapolis County. Seconded by Councillor Gunn. Discussion. Oh, sorry, it's not me. Pardon me. Go ahead.
Discussion on the letter.
Oh, yeah.
Councillor Hemming.
I strongly support this. So let me leave it at that for now. I'm hoping we can pass this motion. And then I would like to have council consider another potential motion that I think would be a companion to this. But I want to strongly support this one, and it's my hope that the council will pass this.
Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. Yeah, so I strongly support this motion as well. And I'm going to revert back, as I mentioned earlier this morning, in our forestry report that we worked long and laboriously on a couple of years ago, that was one of our end findings, was that we weren't for glyphosate spraying of any sort in Annapolis County. So it's posted once somewhere in our stuff. I think it wouldn't hurt to back it up with a letter to them. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion?
Yeah, Martha, me here, Bert.
Councillor McNeil.
Yeah, I too strongly support this. I've been getting calls like the other councillor says as well. So I'm strongly against any spraying. I know my sister-in-law, when they sprayed a number of years ago, they got covered with the stuff out there. She has MS now, so does her husband. So anyway, I strongly am for this, no spray. Thank you.
Councillor Pratt.
Thank you. I too will be supporting this letter. I think that some of the stuff that's been dumped in our forests over the years is just unbelievable, and it's time that people take action. Thank you. Past time.
Councillor McDonald.
Even if I hadn't received enough letters to fill the binder, enough emails, I would have supported this anyway. I just don't see why in this day on this planet Earth, we need to kill so much to print money. I think there must be better ways. If anybody needs to hear a couple letters read before we vote, I have them right here in my hand. I have a feeling we don't need to hear them, but if you wish to hear any, let me know, and I'd be pleased to read a couple to you. Thank you.
Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, I also will be supporting this. Might as well be spraying just as bad. Okay.
Thank you. And I too will be supporting this motion to spray things that could potentially affect our lives and our health. I would never support doing things like that. And our forest is a big part of our communities and our county, and we need to protect that and the lives of our residents. Warden Nabinski.
Thank you. Just as a further note, I'm going to request that if this motion is passed, that once our meeting of Committee of the Whole today is completed, that we convene a brief special meeting of Council in order to ratify this and have the letter sent immediately. And the reason for that is, as of September 1st, it's now permissible to spray those parcels. So we have a narrow window of opportunity to act if we want our voice to be heard, and we certainly want to ensure this message reaches the appropriate departments as rapidly and as urgently as possible. So just to let you know.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Actually, Mr. Warden, I was going to mention something along that line to you, but seeing as how I have the floor, let's go to the question.
All in favor of sending the letter?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. I will turn it back over to the warden.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hemming.
Thank you, Warden. Yeah, this is, I think right now, this is probably one of the most serious issues that we face. I mean, I think if you have breast cancer or prostate cancer, there's a good chance that the cause of that might be this chemical. And I'm so concerned about it. I think there is a limited reach that the municipality can do, and I think we've taken that to write this letter. But this is, the reason we're in this mess is in 2017, Health Canada decided to approve the use of glyphosate for 15 years, which is really till 2031. And then in 2019, they reconfirmed that for another 15 years. So it's policy at the federal level that this can happen. The thing that I would like council to give a bit of reflection on is I think it's possible for citizens to join in a series of class action lawsuits against Monsanto and Bayer to stop spraying this. Right now at the last count, I think there's nearly 400 class action lawsuits that are in application. They're in Quebec, Manitoba, Ontario, and British Columbia. Whether they've been filed in Nova Scotia, I'm not sure of. I haven't checked that out. But I would, that is for me an avenue for residents to do immediately, is to file a class action lawsuit to stop this. My question was going to be, and I didn't get time to chase this out in the last 30 minutes, but I didn't know if it was possible, and I suppose this is a question to the solicitor or the CAO, is there any record or history of a municipality filing a class action lawsuit? If that is something that has some legs, I would support a motion that would ask the CAO to look into class action lawsuits against the manufacturers of this chemical here in Annapolis County. But I wanted to have a brief discussion to make sure I'm on at least partway solid ground so I don't raise expectations unwarranted. But if anyone has any indication that that's possible, I would move forward a motion to have the CAO look into the options that we have to file a class action lawsuit.
Seconder for the motion. All right, seconded by Councilor McDonald. Discussion on the motion.
Can you expand it a little bit? That the CAO investigate options to file a class action lawsuit?
I can only, Carolyn, thank you. I can only say that I think it's worth getting additional information to look at the possibility, what that entails, the cost of that, the staff time, and to provide some sort of guideline on, is this a frivolous lawsuit? Has this ever been done before? It's that what I would like to have the CAO explore.
Thank you. Just, I didn't see him on the screen. I thought it needed to be expanded. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Gunn?
Thank you. Hudson versus Spray Tech was is the Canadian one that jumps out to mind. You know, that's a small town municipality that sprayed, took a lawsuit out against quite a big corporation, Spray Tech. Anyway, just interesting. So it can be done.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, further discussion? Deputy Warden.
So this is just a motion to ask the CAO to look into it.
Yes, instruct the CAO to look into to the potential of a class action lawsuit against the manufacturers of glyphosate.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion's carried. Thanks very much. All right, let's go on to departmental reports. First, community development, and that is on page 117 in your agenda.
Motion to receive.
Moved by the deputy warden to receive, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Any questions or comments about the report? I have one. Is Albert online right there? Hello, Albert. Could somebody maybe prompt Albert? He may not realize that we're reconvened.
No, he's just having trouble finding the button.
Find the button. All right, perfect. Hi, Albert. Question for you. Item 1A, which is on the Shell property application. It says processing is suspended. Could you expand on that? What does that mean?
What that means is that in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, the Municipal Government Act was very clear that if a council does not hold a public hearing or attempt to hold a public hearing within a certain period of time, the application would be deemed refused. But if you recall, prior to COVID, we had actually advertised for the public hearings and we had a full intent to have that public hearing. Therefore, the application doesn't have to die. It can be considered as it's suspended. And until such time that council decides that they want to have full public meetings and full public hearings again.
All right, that's what I wanted to clarify. I've had inquiries both from the applicants and also from some residents in the community wanting to know exactly what the status of this was, and I certainly wanted to be able to give them the correct information. So it's not been canceled. It's been suspended pending our ability to hold those public meetings once more.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Further questions about the report, folks? Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I'm on page 121. It's the report for August. Okay. Item number 2, economic development, and then go down to B. When I first looked at the heading, I said, oh, Chapters is going to establish a bookstore in Annapolis County, but it's not exactly that. And during the working with local officers to promote our history and stories on the Facebook page, I'm wondering, have we contacted the Annapolis Valley Regional Library Board and or the library in Annapolis Royal? Because we had some discussions about this in the library board a while ago, and at least the Annapolis Royal Board has a section set aside dealing with local stories and local authors. So if we haven't opened up that channel of communication, I think it would be good to consider doing so. Thank you.
Further comments or questions? Councillor McDonald.
Sorry, I just noticed, right, the number of permits that have been issued. To me, it just looks like there are a large number of building construction permits that have been issued, and it just shows me a kind of a positive vibe out there, right? People are willing to invest in their properties and they're feeling good about it. That's the message I'm seeing when I see that, Warden. I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you very much. Further questions or comments? Councillor LeBlanc.
My question is about the after-school program. I see that on page 121 that it says they're monitoring the requirements. So are they going to be able to pursue with them or are they not? I was wondering.
That would suggest to me at the moment that right now they're not able to implement those programs and they're monitoring to see when they'll be able to put them back in place. Am I reading that correctly?
There's two answers to that. The first one has to be, if you recall, this is for a report from that month has already passed.
Yes.
So we are in process, and we will be talking to the schools as to exactly what can we do, what can't they do, those sorts of things. So for the month of August, it's still on our radar to get them done, but they will be done. And we couldn't answer a lot of those questions until the school actually opened again in September.
So they're, right now, they're going in and trying to find out what can be done. Probably not this week, probably next week, huh?
That's correct. Nancy is looking after that one, Nancy Chisholm, and we will be following this one up.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And just for clarity's sake, because there are two reports being provided for each of the next three items, we really should pass them separately. This is what we're talking about at the moment is the July report, and we'll pass the August report separately. Further questions on the July report? Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. And it's about the county-wide planning. I think it was 1B. Yeah, county-wide planning. Albert, are we going to be hiring new staff to help with that? And will we be online for this 2021 expectation by the province?
Short answer is before COVID, we left off that council wanted to have a workshop about this exact issue. When the budget was presented, we didn't put extra staff into this year's budget. And John had said that, definitely reason being is that we didn't want to come up with a big shock to the budget. And he said that we will be looking after this through the next budget. Plain and simple fact about it is that it depends on what council wants to do with all these existing municipal plans and land use bylaws. That's the first part we have to answer that question, because we need additional staff to do that. And if you recall in my presentation, I said there was two issues. One was the development of a brand new countywide plan, but it was also the review of the existing area plans. And that was something we were going to talk about at the workshop. The other part about it is that, it's got to be, right? We've got to have more staff, and that's what it comes down to. But I can't answer that question because we were going to have a workshop first.
So we need the workshop to get this underway.
I'm sorry, Councillor, I forgot to mention the other issue behind it is how we speed up and do things is a function of when we actually open up for public meetings, because all of these sections require meetings of advisory committees for me to work directly with, and we absolutely categorically need public participation to be able to do these. So that is another part of the side of this equation.
So are we presently, and I guess this would be for John Ferguson, this question, are we still in a state of emergency in Nova Scotia?
Yes.
And when's this going to end? We don't know, because they're just getting ready to jump into another one. Is that it? Or what are we getting from the government? This is when we're going to be able to work normal again.
Okay, so they have given parameters around certain activities, but they're all the freedoms that they're given to act in certain circumstances. It's limited. Okay, so you have to have social distancing, wearing a face mask, depending on the circumstance that you're in. So in our office building, if we have less than 10 people in the building, my understanding is in our offices, we can take our mask off. But if we're walking in the common areas, we put our mask on. If anybody from outside the building is in the building for a meeting, they have to have a mask, and everybody else has to have a mask when people are in the building. Okay?
Oh,
okay. And then we have to be able to set up something like for our meetings and stuff like that. We still don't really meet the criteria. We don't have enough room, basically. And we can talk about that as we've already put out a quote to see what we can do to retrofit the county office. I think that might be related to something else on the agenda. I'm not sure, but but ultimately, there's an expense to do something on the interim in order to make the meeting happen. And even then, I don't think the public could come into the meeting. So it's work in progress, work in progress.
Martha, would you mind taking the chair for a moment or two? Thank you.
I'll take that for now. Thank you.
Any more questions on August 2020 monthly report? Councillor LeBlanc.
I was just wondering, did we approve the July one or are we approving both of them at the same time?
Oh, we haven't approved the July one?
No, just need the question on motion.
Right. All in favor of the receive for information on July report?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. We'll move on to the August report of community development. Any questions on that report? And I'd entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Prout. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of August report?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. We will move on to protective services for July. Any question or a motion to receive? Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Any discussion? Councillor Gunn.
Just a question here, yeah.
Oh, thank you. If I can get rid of something else here. There we go. Yeah, just more of a question. I guess it's for Cheryl. So I get a call this weekend about somebody who had their dog picked up. And they said, oh my God, they picked it up on Friday night. I tried to get it back. I called them Saturday when we found it, and we couldn't get it back on the weekend. And I says, well, you know, they probably get back the first of the week. Oh, my dog will be in distress. Why can't I get my dog back through the weekend? So I'd like an answer so that I can hand it on to them. And I know there is one. I'm not condemning anybody. I just don't know the answer.
Can't hear you, Cheryl. There. Can hear you now.
I'll take flack on this one because I spoke to this resident. And it's difficult to speak about particular circumstances because that kind of breaches the privacy of the person who owns the dog. But let me speak in general terms. If we have a dog that there's a complaint received about it running at large, and it also involves other animals such as a cat, dog, chickens even being injured, it involves an investigation. It's not just a simple matter of returning the animal to the owner. It also involves returning the animal to the owner in a way that we know it's not going to reoccur and that other animals are not going to be put at risk. Sometimes it requires special undertakings or covenants to be agreed to the owner in order to get the animal back. Does that answer?
No.
Okay.
It may in that particular situation that you were referring to. But what I'm asking, I guess, is why when a dog is picked up, without it bothering anything else, just my little Fluffy here who, you know, has no teeth and, you know, couldn't chew on a slipper, is picked up on a Friday. I've misplaced her. I find out where she is Saturday. Why can't I pick up Fluffy on Saturday? Why do I have to wait until Monday so that I can pay? I'm a county resident. Sure. I pay taxes. Why can't I pick up Fluffy and then come in next week and pay somewhere?
Sure, I can respond to that as well. Our auditors require that we have certain procedures in place about who is permitted to accept money in the county.
Got it.
We can't all take cash in hand and then not be accused of taking a bribe, for example. We have to follow procedures for payments, and segregation of duties and how you track payments that are taken and so on.
So that just couldn't, you know, if I didn't pay it, it wouldn't be added to my tax bill like anything else in the county.
Oh, this isn't a circumstance where it could be added to your tax. It's not a lien on your property.
Okay. So that's the scheme, as though because you can't pay your fine. That's why you're keeping fluffy, because you know you can't accept the money.
It's not a fine in this circumstance.
Okay.
The
Okay, I got it.
administrative office is closed, and that's why. They
Just
have to
flat.
open up the office and
That's
then
it, right?
go to the pound and then work that out. And in some cases, it's just not possible.
So the short answer is because the administrative services are shut down for the weekend.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting.
Part of it.
Okay.
Plus, they have to, and Don, correct me, they have to prove that they paid the fee because the dog was impounded. And then they have to verify that, and they also have to bring identification in order to obtain the dog back. So there's a process that they have to go through. And only the bylaw enforcement officer is not there to take money. Like a police officer doesn't take money for a ticket when he pulls over a car. It's got to go through the process. So it's difficult on a Friday when that happens. If it was a Thursday, you might be able to get it taken care of the next day.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Councillor McNeil?
Yeah, I just had a question there for Cheryl. Did she get all the final documents for the fire department's registration stuff?
I have indeed, sir.
Yeehaw! Thank you.
Okay, Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, I was just wondering, do we find that when we have animals like dogs that are running around, they get picked up, if they have their county dog tag, easier to call the owners and get it done? Like you pay what, $25 for your dog tag, and you have all the information there, and they can actually call you? And do you think, are there more dog tags now or less, or what's your take on that?
Majority of dogs we pick up don't have a tag on them. And in some cases, they may have a tag, but it doesn't match up with our lists, so we may still have difficulty trying to contact the owner.
All right then. So, okay, I have just a follow-up. If my dog that has a tag, but if her tag breaks and gets lost, can I call you and get a tag, and what is my cost and whatever?
Replacement tags are a whole $5.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go to any one of our municipal buildings, and we have tags available so you can get it replaced immediately.
So is it a different number, or is it exactly the same, or do you just...
It'll be a different number.
Yeah, okay, good. It's $5 though. Yes, thank you.
Councillor Gunn? You're muted.
Thank you so much. Now, I didn't know we had dog tags in Annapolis County. I thought you guys got rid of those years ago and you just take it out of our property taxes, our dog tax.
It's an option.
It's an option.
Not mandatory, but you may buy a tag for your animal, and as I say, they're available at all the municipal buildings.
So, but the dog tag, if I buy a dog tag for my 2 dogs and put them on, I don't know, they don't work out. But anyway, does that get the dog back to me? They look at the number on that tag and immediately get it back, say, we picked your dog up, come get it. And I don't pay the service fee?
No, you're still going to have to pay the fee for the officer going out to pick up a dog if they have received a call about a dog that has been running at large. It has on occasion sort of been the officer happened to be in the area, saw a dog running down the road. If it had a tag, he just takes it right home.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if we've gone out, picked up the animal, and it has been some time before we're able to get a hold of the property owner, who, you know, where that dog belongs, then there's definitely going to be a cost, because our officers have spent time looking for the animal, or may have impounded it in the meantime, you know, and now it has to be released.
Is there a fine for, and I don't want to get into policy, I know people want to move on to other things, but I'm going to ask this one last question. Is there a policy for care and control of dogs?
have a dog bylaw, and in that talks about if your animal gets away from your property. Yes,
What I'd be responsible in one thing. Okay, thank you.
you're
Good.
welcome.
Any more discussion? Councillor O'Boyle.
Yes, thank you. I was looking at number 1A, demolition of burnt building completed by bank. I've never seen that, didn't know what it is. Is there a difference than I've never seen by the bank?
Has been an outstanding issue. It's been on the report for many months. A house that burnt last year, and we have been chasing the bank who took the property back to get them to actually demolish it rather than it be at the county's cost. So they have finally stepped up to the plate, and they did the demolition of the building.
Perfect.
Good.
Any more Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lady the other day got bit by a dog, attacked by a dog over here in Port Lauren. And I was wondering if, I know the RCMP responded, but would our bylaw enforcement officer respond to that? Have anything to do with that?
Would, if we were told.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of receiving this report for July?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against? Motion's carried. And I will turn it back over to the warden.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. So we're on to the Committee of the Whole monthly report for protective services for August of 2020. Could I have a motion to receive that report, please?
Move.
So moved.
By Councillor Fowler and seconded by Councillor Prout. Discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, we'll go on to municipal services report for August. Motion to receive that report. Moved by Councillor Sheridan, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion or questions?
I have a question.
All right, Councillor McNeil first.
This one is in regards to Hillside Drive, and it's the Susan Hay, regards to the problem they had with their sewer line there. It's been a year. Just get another email from her the other day, and she still hasn't heard anything on the compensation for what money she's put out.
Stephen, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I've put in a recommendation to the CAO, and I guess I would request that we have the discussion initially in camera, because Ms. Hay has been very cooperative. Her correspondence to us mentions a number of staff, and it's really just about the operations department. So I'd like to avoid bringing individual staff members' names up in the discussion. But essentially my recommendation to council is, or to the CAO, is a bit of a Solomon recommendation about when people were involved and when they weren't involved. And it's about 50% of the cost that she's asked for.
Councillor McDonald.
It's not so much a question, it's just a comment on our, a lot of people call it drought, our dry summer, and the status of water in the village of Margarettsville. It may not be legally called a village, but I call it a village. It's definitely a community of Margarettsville. It's I really got to applaud the staff. I can't imagine the hours you're putting in to make sure they have water. And I'm pretty happy we drilled that well in Bridgetown. That's about it. Thanks, bud.
All right, thank you, Deputy Warden.
And that was my question about the Margarettsville water supply. Are we still trucking water over there daily, or is it coming back up?
We're not using as much with the cool temperatures. We're trying to set up a schedule. Last time I talked Thursday or Friday, they're trying to get the hauls down to once every 2 days or even 3 days. but I haven't had a chance to review with staff whether that's been the issue, especially over the long weekend. But we're attempting to reduce the number of times we do haul, which has been daily up until last week.
Thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Yes, I'm looking at two things. First one is the Bridgetown water. The last part is that for the 2 VFDs and the chlorine analyzer, and it could possibly be claimed through insurance. Do you have, can it be claimed? Or don't know yet?
That lightning strikes are eligible, but we have to gather up the information and fill out a report and send it to our insurer.
So, it's okay, great, that's a possibility. And the next thing I was looking at is technical services that James Stronach has moved over to another position.
Yes, he has. James has moved on to a federal government position over at the base. Wish him luck. He did a great job for us. I appreciated his the speed in which he got things done, and the black and white efforts he made in terms of interpretation about how we get things done. It was appreciated.
Okay, so we might be looking for somebody else, huh?
Where I'm looking at my internal organization for operations and shifting some duties around to kind of match the new efforts we have to make in terms of the sports hub we've acquired, the Upper Clements Park, and maybe shifting some responsibilities around and making certain duties responsible of certain individuals.
Great, thank you, Steve.
All right. Further questions, Councillor Gunn?
No, thank you. Steve, I was looking at one part of a report here there about watering the lawn. How long are we going to have to water those lawns up at that sports hub? Is that going to be forever?
We've gradually cut back on that, but certainly one of the projects I want to bring up through our budget discussions next year is the ability to put in an in-ground system. Historically, frankly, none of the fields associated with the schools or anything like that have required in-ground sprinkler systems. They've been good with, one good soaking every 10 days, every 2 weeks. But if we hit another dry season like we did this year, and the factor that it was brand new, we had to put a lot of water on there. But it's well established now. It should be a lot more drought resistance. But I would like to bring it up again through the CAO and next year's budget discussions about an in-ground sprinkler system.
Heard so. Good luck. Thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Subject about putting in a sprinkler system. You're thinking about putting in one where the soccer field is?
Correct. No. Where the naturally sodded soccer field is.
Pardon me? I didn't hear you.
Where the natural soccer field is, the north field.
Okay. It just could
be. It's kind of like.
Because the one on the inside of the track is artificial turf, so it's the one over the adjacent.
Yeah. But what I'm thinking is it still could be dangerous if those metal things and the kids fall. Just I would be leery of something like that.
Well, no, it would be in terms of in-ground sprinkler systems for sports facilities. I suspect, I'm not an expert, but they would be set up that they would be outside of the playing surface for sure and be recessed. You could even recess them even under a piece of sod or even outside of the playing field within the fence. As I say, I'm not an expert, but certainly it's a very common practice.
All right, thank you.
Further questions or comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks very much. So now go on to Finance Q1 report. I know a lot of councillors have been eager to see this. Could I have a motion to receive the report, please? Moved by Councillor Henning, seconded by Councillor Prout. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Sheridan.
Just in regards to the gas tax, did we receive additional funding from the province?
In 1920 we did, not this year. Last year received double the amount, so it was about 1.6 million.
Okay, so then I knew with COVID, they were going to put extra money out there. Have we received any extra money due to COVID at all?
No, I think that went to the provinces.
Okay, so we have received nothing.
No.
Nothing trickled down, okay.
Nothing trickled down, not yet anyway.
Hey, I was hoping.
That's highway.
I know. We can always hope.
That's right.
Further questions and comments? Deputy Ward.
I just noticed like on the first page that we're at 72% collected, which is down from previous years.
Yeah, it's down about 2%, but that, actually there was one bank that was a day late in sending in the mortgagee taxes.
Okay.
We actually got that the next day, so we're back. I was quite surprised actually that our collections came in the way they did. We're very lucky.
Okay, and my other question is, I thought the whole purpose of having our quarterly review was to see how much money we have saved over this quarter due to the COVID. So we could address funding applications that were given to us previously. So does anybody, or does Holly, do you know how much we have saved this quarter?
I'm not sure we've saved any. We're right on track as we were for other years. Probably 26% of our budget has been spent in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if anything, we've had more expense with hand sanitizers. We've given staff extra cleaning supplies because all the machines as they use them we're encouraging them to clean those machines. As well as we've ramped up our cleaning in all 3 administration buildings as well. So if anything, we've had more expense. We paid the $8,000 to the food banks as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure there's any savings unless, if you see a line item that you think that by year end we will not spend, but we just don't know, right?
Also, a lot of one-time expenditures occur in the first part of the year. And we've spent a lot on, for example, many people had their home offices set up. We had to outfit them with the technology and different things in order to get that together. We've had to augment some of our existing contracts around cleaning for more hours and more use, and there's an additional cost to that. We've had to make a lot of adjustments, as I think everybody here knows, for example, in some of our vehicles and the separation of staff and using only one person in a vehicle if they can't be separated, stuff like that. And so we're still on track. Do I anticipate some savings as a result of our normal operations? If we continue on the way that we are, I believe that we will, but it's too early in the year to evaluate it beyond what it is right now, because we had so many initial expenses associated with COVID.
Okay.
I have Councillors Prout, LeBlanc, and Gunn currently on the list. Councillor Prout.
Thank you. This was new to me. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I've looked at quarterly reports, education, and so on before, but I'd really like to commend Holly and the staff, because to put this together on a quarterly basis, I know must have been extra. I was very pleasantly surprised with overall what I saw. Like I thought, well, gosh, we aren't going to get any, or we're going to get a lot less money in because of COVID and all the issues that we've certainly planned for and so on. But I was very impressed. I'd like to commend you.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor LeBlanc.
Yes, thank you. I see, true to form, that our insurances seem to be one of those problems, along with everything else that needs to be brought in. Insurances have gone up basically everywhere, in every sector. So that doesn't help for sure. I was looking at one particular place. Does it when it came to
Age
using Zoom? I'm trying to find it. When it came to using Zoom, is that a cost? Is there there's a cost to that. What, I thought that's exactly what it was, but I can't find the page. Can you tell me what page that's on, Holly?
It would be under, yep. Information technology. It's on well, actually page 140. It's in the middle of the page, and so maybe Dawn can speak to.
Actually, it's a relatively small percentage that is in the first quarter. You'll probably see more in the second quarter. It is on page 140 of the agenda package under information technology. Our costs in the second quarter may be up somewhat. We do have rather offsetting savings in other areas. So for example, when telephone and internet goes up, we save on travel, for example.
Yeah. All right.
But where is it?
It's page 140. I think it's 141. I just can't find it.
If you go where the first lines appear in the page, subtotaling, it's just right after that.
What number is it?
It's above 6,000. In the second paragraph.
Dawn, would it be GL 88041 is generally where they would post any of the Zoom meetings?
Oh, I see.
Yes, and I think the municipal clerk may have absorbed some of the costs for Zoom in her budget as well.
And while I'm on the topic, I've seen security through all the systems, but on page 140 at 7110 security, are we having a lot more to deal with security in our buildings? I know we have them still at the park, and we have them.
We don't discuss our, if we can, any of our security locations.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm done for now.
All right, Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. Oh, better make sure you can see me.
You're on.
I am muted, unmuted. Okay, thank you. There was several questions there when it comes to travel and things like that. So I see a lot of county vehicles after hours going here at the end of the day. How many staff vehicles have we got that we're paying to drive people home with at the end of the day?
I don't think we're doing it at all.
Oh, is that right?
Steve? Go ahead, Steve.
There may be some staff that are returning to either the Bridgetown or back down to Annapolis, where they start in Bridgetown. The vehicle is based out of there, but we mix and match our crews, so they're responding to crews that may start out. A parks crew person may start out in Bridgetown, but he's working down in Ravenhaven, for instance. So at the end of the day, he'll be traveling back to Bridgetown because that's where the vehicle and the person is based out of. But and there has been certainly some call issues with the water breaks we've been dealing with and the water situation we'll be dealing with in Margarettsville.
So the truck I see parked in Clementsport at the end of each day, the big white ton truck with the water tank on it, and that's where that's supposed to be parked at the end of the day overnight?
Well, I'd have to double check on whether that person, if the person who is on call generally takes the vehicle home.
I don't see that at night.
I'd have to, I'll have to review that, Counselor.
Sharon.
There shouldn't be anybody taking their vehicles home other than those that are on call.
All right, thank you.
Cheryl?
The animal control bylaw enforcement officers do have to take their vehicles home because they are on call all the time. So just so you know, those trucks will always go home with them.
You'll see the building inspection vehicles parked out here in front of the main office. They return them here every evening and pick them up in the morning.
It seems to me that about 6 years ago, we had a policy decision about that. And I thought that the way the policy developed then was that if the endpoints of an employee's driving during the course of the day made it more cost effective for the municipality for them to take the vehicle home rather than redeliver it back to the office. But that was a possibility. Am I imagining that, or was that that was a conversation we had as a council about 6 years ago?
I don't know about that.
Did that ever become policy, or was it just a conversation?
No.
Well, part of the issue with taking a vehicle home is that it's considered a taxable benefit.
Mm.
And so it impacts the employee where they'd have to pay taxes on it if it's deemed to be a benefit to them getting to work every day. So on occasion, in unique circumstances, it may happen, but it's not a practice. And it's because if it is a practice, then we have to report it as a taxable benefit.
Okay, I remember now. We talked about it, but it was about the animal control, that they would have their trucks, if I remember carefully.
Yeah, there's some, if the truck is required to carry out the work, then it's not taxable.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Sheridan?
Regarding the trucks, John, you said the building inspectors drop them off in Annapolis every night when they're done with them? So don't they both work out of Lawrencetown? Building inspectors?
No, they do both work out of Lawrencetown, but they basically pick up their folders. Their folders are sometimes mailed here. So they get their list of calls, and usually they try to determine whether central location. Sometimes they may have to go to Lawrencetown and come all the way back down to this end of the county, depending on who they're working with. So it's they could take their vehicle back to Lawrencetown if they chose, but often whatever they get for a package that day, they try to manage it so that it works out, that they get their vehicle back here, and then they can go home.
Okay, thank you.
All right, further discussion? Further questions? Councillor Sheridan.
So in regards to savings, I see like the council's allowances that we usually have for travel and all that. There's got to be some savings there. So 136. So over time, because we're still not traveling. 136.
Sorry, Wendy, what page was that?
136.
136, okay.
Because we don't have our expense sheets going in every month because we're not traveling, we're not going where. There's got to be some savings there.
Sorry, it's not on 136.
137.
Yeah.
Enumeration.
Okay. Yeah, I have it on 136, sorry.
Thank you.
So in that regard, the money that's saved, does that go back into operational reserve? Where does that money go that we save?
So at the end
if we have a surplus at the end of the year, it has to go into reserve.
Okay, that was my question, because I know we're going to be saving in that category. We've got to be.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, so it looks like there is significant savings. Just in the first quarter, we're down about $22,000 in change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Deputy Warden.
So we are saving in that category, but others I see they're at their max, or some columns are over. So if we save in one department, at the end of the fiscal year, do we take that savings to balance out the budget?
Yes. And
so there could be a lot to go to operational, or there could be a little.
That's right.
So just wanted to be
first
clear.
we have to balance our budget first, and then surplus.
So what you're doing right now is you're really taking the temperature of what's going on. And then as we move through it, we do the same thing. We get together before year end and we see where we are. And sometimes we'll take a look and to say, look, we might be a little over here. Well, then we put the brakes on of all unnecessary spending. We don't do it. And we try to come in with a balanced budget. Last year we came in pretty good, didn't we? Even though it was a very difficult year.
We're still going to have $113,000 deficit
for the entire year last year. Think of what we had to manage last year. I think we came in pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Further questions, folks?
Sorry.
Yes,
Thank you. Holly, did you just say we had $130,000 deficit from last year?
$113,000.
$113. Is that common, and are we allowed to have a deficit? I didn't think the municipalities were allowed.
We are, but we have to recover that money from our operating reserves. So we'll have to cut a check from operating reserve and put it into our general operating.
Oh, that's how it works. Okay, thank you.
You either do that or the following year you put your tax rate up.
Or you budget something less amount. And
Less.
recover it. You've got 2 years to recover it. Doesn't have to be paid right away, but you have 2 years. But you should do it right away.
Yeah, generally we take it from our reserves.
Councillor Sheridan?
So is there something in particular that caused that overage or deficit?
Probably the trucking of the waste, right? And we could have very easily had a $500,000 deficit. So other areas of the budget that were underspent helped to compensate for that.
Thank you.
We really tightened the belt all through last year to keep it as close to budget as possible. We thought that we might end up with a balanced budget, but we were a little bit over.
All right, further questions? All right, in that case, all in favor of the motion to receive the report signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks so much. Chief CAO's report. It's on page 155.
It should add that some of the costs that impacted us as well through the budget process is other services had gone up in costs, from bus services to policing services. We increased contributions towards many other projects that we have, and so there was a lot to influence the budget last year. Anyway, we can move on.
All right, so could I have a motion to receive the CAO's report?
So moved.
Wharton, seconded by Councillor Hemming. Questions or comments? Councillor Hemming.
Yeah, I have.
I won't sleep good tonight until I say this. I can't tell you how appreciative I am of the work the CAO and the staff have done, not just recently with COVID. I keep thinking, what a curveball that was. And in general, we've managed it. We've had to restructure the way we do business, and we've managed it. But prior to that, the amount of demands that this council has put on the CAO in terms of public consultations with economic development and climate change, strategic plans, we moved democracy out into town hall meetings. Those were all big time energy hogs that the staff had to bear. And I'm just absolutely amazed that we have moved through this with the ease that we have. And that said, I will sleep better tonight. So thank you.
Councillor Hemming. Go to Councillor McNeil, and then Councillors Gunn, and then Sheriff.
Yeah, I guess this question for John. John, we had a year ago, we had that petition from Granville Ferry regarding the water, and we were going to have staff look into that.
Yes, yeah.
I'm just wondering what happened, if there's anything or what update.
It's been quite an interesting effort to see if we could find a solution. We know that a couple individuals that have 2 structures on their property were concerned about paying for 2 waste bills, 2 water and sewage bills. And when we went through the entire process, we have such a unique system. We have a blended amalgamated utilities of water. And then in some cases, we're not the utility of water, but we are the utility for sewer. So we have about 1,400 customers. 800 of those customers, we are not the municipality providing the water. And in order to determine a cost of service for waste, you'd have to get the UARB to approve that. But our understanding is under those regulations, if you do not provide the water, you cannot put a meter on monitoring the water and therefore monitoring the waste. It's a very difficult process to move through. We had Jerry Eisner look at it, weigh in on it, and he had some grave concerns about going in that direction as to whether we could even do it. So then we tried to look to see if there were some individual things that we could do to help some of those customers that are, a little bit upset that they have 2 structures and they're paying 2 sewers. And without completely upsetting the apple cart as it relates to our existing bylaws, if we move a little bit to try to protect that group, then a bunch of others are impacted by that, meaning they would get the same benefit. But there's some other areas that really should need to be improved. And we don't have a solid way forward to look at proper sewer charges, like for a bed and breakfast or something of that nature, and how they're set up. And we've been asked to check into some of the other services that we to provide to see if that's structured properly, and we're going to do that. But to do a complete change to a cost of service format is unfortunately nearly impossible, because we don't, 800 of our customers aren't our water customers.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, John, if we could relay that to them. I've been getting some questions. If we could somehow relay some of that information to them.
Yeah, no problem. And
okay.
Yeah, if you let me know who you were talking to, I'll reach out to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Councillor Gunn?
Yep.
Councillor Gunn?
Thank you so much. I was muted there a second and just finishing writing out my question. Yeah, listen, I'm very appreciative of what John does with us and putting these reports on and giving a breakdown of what he's been doing the last month or so. I'm just very appreciative of looking at it, because I know he does a lot of hard work every month. And knowing that he's at the helm is going to help me sleep tonight. What I'm not appreciative of work is and what will keep me a little bit awake tonight is the thinking about the operational demands of that new sports field that are being placed on the county. There's times, I think it's an awful thing we got with the washrooms and that, and those operational demands, because that's going to cost our taxpayers a couple of $100,000 a year to run that property. And I don't know. I'm glad we got him at the helm looking after it, is all I can tell you, because we're still not settled with it, and that's going to be a big drain on us for a long time. That's all I really got to say. But good job, John. Thank you.
Steve, do we have a sense of exactly what the ongoing operational costs will be for that hub?
Not really. I mean, it was an exceptional year this year because of the dry season, so we did spend a lot of manpower there. What we also don't know is any of the revenues that would come in for those events that we can charge revenues for. So, but in terms of maintenance, we've got to come up with a plan for routine cutting of the grass fields. But also, there's a significant landscape involved that are not sports. It's just landscaping. It's just green space. So we have to take that on too. In terms of the artificial field, I think it's going to be relatively low. We have to look at the operations in terms of the best practices to when we go and rake the field again after how many events, or even it comes down to how old the participants are, because the bigger kids cause a bigger disruption on the field. But if it's just the tots, then there's no issue. So we're just getting those manuals actually from the suppliers and the constructors and the architects. We'll have to go through those and see what we come up with them. In terms of that green space, yeah, there's a lot of additional hard landscape, not artificial turf, landscape that the county will have to look after.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. All right, further questions or comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Sheridan, that's right, I had you there, and I'll put you on too, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Sheridan.
So, John, in regards to the assets down at the Upper Clements Park, have you had any more inquiries?
Yeah. So we put the expression of interest out on Friday, and it's on our webpage. And then I think Janice has another link to it that they can get more descriptions. And I'm not sure if there's going to be videos, but definitely pictures that they can look at. And so the expression of interest is to invite people that can go and take a look at the theme park, take a look around, put a proposal in on what they want to pay and how they're going to remove it. And we're going to evaluate that. If we think that it's a reasonable value for what's being offered and how it's going to be removed, we're going to basically say, okay, we accept that. If not, then we plan on having an auction shortly afterwards for anything that doesn't sell as a result of the expression of interest. Then we'll move to the auction format and see if we can dispose of the assets in that regard. I will say that the revenues from the sale of the assets, we will have to keep that in a reserve, and I can explain why that's required. And you know, in an in-camera, it relates to other pending agreements that we pre-agreed to as it relates to certain levels of government.
Thank you.
All right. Anything further? Councillor McDonald.
I see, Mr. Ferguson, I see a few comments on your report about internet and internet progress, and I see one specifically saying meeting with Seaside staff. Can you elaborate on that?
Seaside, yeah,
okay, go ahead.
Seaside is going to be operating the internet, as I think as everybody knows, and so we're working out how that relationship will unfold. Ultimately, we want the citizens to go to Seaside Communications. They're going to be the company that's going to be hooking them up. They're gearing up for that. They're going to be putting out correspondence gradually in the next little while here. There's actually a pilot phase that we're going to go through as it relates to the service. I'm not going to describe that now because they're going to be releasing that information to the public, and I don't want to
steal their thunder.
Preempt them. Let them.
Seaside is going to release that?
Seaside, jointly with us, we're going to be releasing that, but we want Seaside to be recognized by citizens and businesses. This is who you'll be dealing with to get your internet hooked up. And so all of those pieces are coming together. We're dealing with POP locations. So as you know, there's strand, about 170 kilometers of strand has been put up, and maybe 30 kilometers of fiber and growing, but the fiber's not connected to the homes and it's not connected to backhaul yet. So we're putting in the POP locations to where you bring the backhaul signals to, and they have to be built. And so there's a process for that, but all other things are happening at the same time so that when it comes time to give the backhaul and then provide the direct connections to the homes, it'll all unfold in that process. So that's in a very quick synapse of what's going on. That's what's going on at this time.
Okay. Can you give me a definition for POP?
That's a point of presence. And what that is basically your backhaul system comes in, and whatever system's running out the fiber from there, it creates the POP location that the signals go out with the backhaul supporting those signals.
And I see there are 3 of those on Eagle Telecom's map. I'm happy with that. Sir, is there a possibility that every payday or every garbage day or every couple of weeks you can put some sort of brief update on the internet on our website?
Yeah. Yes, as our last meeting, we asked for an update. We're all saying, yes, we got to put up an update. And then we have all these other things we end up doing and we forget to do it. My apologies. We actually have an update from last week that should be up, but it's not up yet. And I'll get on that.
So how can I remind you? Do you want me to remind you every Friday morning or something?
Yes, at 5 a.m. please. Friday morning.
Friday morning. Expect a text from me. I'll send you one. Thank you very much.
The other, I guess the main thing is that we still want to transition to Seaside as being the focal point for residents to get answers from. So we want to try to switch that over too, but we will be putting something on the webpage, and we just haven't gotten to it.
Expect to hear from me Friday.
Gotcha.
All right.
Thank you.
Councillor Fowler?
Just wondering what the bill's going to come in by name. Is it? What's the bill name going to be?
Seaside Communication will be billing directly.
Billing directly. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Any further questions or comments? All in favor of the motion received signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. We have one committee report, the Transit Authority report for the month of July. Could I have a motion to receive that report, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Howard, seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Any questions for the report? Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. Page 164. It's the one with the ridership history. And if you look at the colored part and you go over and you look at 2020 for Annapolis West, and you look at 2020 for Digby, you will see that 3 or 4 times the number of passengers traveled in the Digby bus as traveled in ours. And that was because we decided not to have the bus running. And thus we put whatever that bar represents, number of citizens, in the position of having to find other transport. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further questions or comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. That brings us to our final in camera. Let's take a 5-minute. What I'll do actually is I'll ask for the motion to go in camera, and then we'll take a quick 5-minute recess and enter in camera in about 5 minutes. Carolyn, go ahead.
You did have a late addition to the agenda. Does that happen before?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Agenda on social media. Deputy Warden.
I'm muted here. And I've brought this topic up before about our agenda being posted on our county website, like all other municipalities do. And I've seen them and read them. And I've had a lot of inquiries from residents about us putting ours on our website where we have COVID and they don't have the opportunity to come to our meetings or participate. So I'm wondering why they cannot be put on our website. Is there a reason?
So you're asking if we could post the agenda or the full agenda package?
The full agenda package.
Do we have anyone from Carolyn? Go ahead.
There had been a discussion at one point about the amount of space it takes up on our website. I can't go beyond that. I just know that space was an issue. So today your agenda package was 167 pages. Putting a PDF document of that size on the website does take up a lot of space there. I don't know if there were other considerations, but I remember that was part of the discussion quite a bit time ago.
Thank you, Carolyn. Councillor Gunn?
Thank you. What about just putting the agenda, period? Because that at least gives the public the topics that we're going to be talking about.
The agenda gets posted usually on Fridays. When I circulate the agenda.
On our website.
On our website, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the agenda.
This week it didn't happen that quick. It didn't happen until this morning.
Okay.
Well, no, and it's like I said, I've had a lot of inquiries. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I fully feel that the public has a right to see our documents and our agenda packages where they cannot participate, and I'm hoping that they'll be able to participate soon with our council meetings going back to normal. So I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead.
That our agenda packages be put on our county website for public view.
I don't know if we can do it.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Gunn. Discussion. The first thought that immediately jumped to mind was, I wonder if what we should do first is refer to IT to find out what options are available. Because there may be a number of different mechanisms that could be better and or worse or possibly more space efficient for the website. And I don't know much about the technological side of things, but I'm certain that Dawn and probably some of the other folks in IT could. Dawn, can you help us out?
I was just going to say that about 3 years ago, we tried and it was fine to put them on as far as space. This one would not have been, but what we had at the time was fine as far as space, but only if you had the best internet connection and the best download speed were you able to actually access it. Because it's all one document, you can only see it once it's all downloaded. And if it's a huge file, people who had slower internet connections couldn't possibly even see it. And in fact, it locked up their internet connections. So that's when we went with posting the pages, which is the agenda itself, with the opportunity to contact the municipal clerk for anything they wish to have in particular, or in fact, the entire package, to make it more practical and accessible for people. You can put it there, but there's about 5 to 10% of the population that have internet speed good enough that they'll actually be able to see most of the agenda.
Dawn, how much traffic do we get on our webpage? We do not get a lot, do we?
No. Though to a certain extent, I think that maybe a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. I know that our webpage, when it was first designed, was very much in keeping with what you could find for municipalities technologically. Today, it's definitely behind it. I find it difficult to search for information. I know I get comments from residents. At some point, a complete redesign of the website is going to be necessary, and we could probably address some capacity issues then. And I imagine that if we're more easily navigable, we would see an increase in usership of the site.
Right.
I thought we had just.
I'm going to Councillor Fowler first, and then Councillor Lipton.
Yeah, with 166 pages, I think the agenda would be fine to be able to on, right?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Leblanc?
Yes, thank you. I thought a few years back we did look at doing something with the internet, as Don was saying, but it was causing a lot of problems to try to put some of our other stuff on because we don't have the right, we need an upgrade. I'll put it that way to make it easier. And I see Don has a comment, so there you go.
Don?
So we keep doing upgrades, but you keep coming up with new priorities and new ideas on how it should look. And the philosophy, the flavor of the day is often, oh, that needs to be on the front page, and you can't put everything on the front page.
Yeah.
Could we have somebody come in, a professional, to give advice on redesign? Yes, we have done that quite expensively on several occasions. I think before you do that, it would be premature to do it, A, before the election, and B, before you have a workshop on what you want your website to do for you. Because websites are most effective when you identify the reason for having the website. So if it's to provide information for residents, that's not the same as providing mechanism for tourism promotion.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Okay. I saw Councillor McDonald and Councillor Gunn.
Deputy Warden, what do you think of this as a bit of an amendment that for now, it sounds like it's very difficult to put large agenda packages out there for a lot of people, but you did mention social media when we first entered into this discussion. How about if you have the appetite for this, that we add the agenda as soon as it's available, just the agenda, to our Facebook page and our website.
It's already on our website.
But it's not on our Facebook page.
Right.
That's the social media part. Website is a little different than social media, right?
If somebody wants the agenda package, can they come and pick it up if we have a copy, Carolyn?
Yeah.
And if
I get regular requests to provide the documents, to provide all the attachments to people. I get those regularly and send them.
And they may not even want the whole package if there's no topic of interest on the agenda, right? But if they have the agenda page, they can make that decision.
Yes. And I think probably more people would view it if it was on Facebook than if it was just on our website. Deputy Warden?
No.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Councillor Gunn's next, and then Deputy Warden. Pardon me. Councillor Gunn?
Thank you. Couldn't we just have a PDF on there they could download? If they hit, that they could, if they had power enough or internet enough, I don't know what they call it, and computer enough, couldn't they just put a PDF on there? Well, there's our agenda, and if you really need to look at it, hit this PDF and you can download it.
We do. That's what we do right now on our website.
Oh, it's beautiful.
There's a PDF of your agenda only is posted to the website, and they can read it or print it or do whatever they want with it.
Oh, but is that the agenda or the whole package?
The agenda only goes on there.
Just the agenda. But couldn't we have the whole package there in a PDF that they could download if they had power enough?
So it was PDF that we tried doing 3 years ago. The PDF file for an agenda package, for example, the one that you have today that has maps and such, is so huge that about 5 to 10% of your residents have the internet capacity to be able to call that up on the screen.
But does it take anything for us to put that PDF site there?
Well, it uses space on our website. I don't think we're extremely low on the space that we have available on our website right now, but it's useless used space because not many of your residents can access it. So we're using up valuable space, valuable real estate for no good reason. If only 5 to 10% of the people have an internet capacity sufficient to even bring the bad guys up on screen.
And the other 90% would just get irritated.
And do.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Well, the only thing left would be to divide it in 3 parts. And still at that, it would be difficult, wouldn't it?
Still be pretty sizable.
Thank you.
Councillor Hammond.
Just a quick observation. This goes back to what I was saying earlier about during the CAO's report on the workload that this council has put on staff. I know 2013, I think it was 2013, I think it was January, the committee of the whole packet was 19 pages. And now it's not odd. We're almost always above 100. We've exceeded the internet capability to keep up with this, and I think that's a good thing. But it does cause problems. So that's the increase in workload that we're dealing with here.
Deputy Warden. And sorry, I thought you had a sequence there. Apologies for that.
That's fine. So Carolyn, you said people do request for the package. Now, do you email that to them, or do they have to come to the office and pick it up?
I get the requests by email and I email them back. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 emails to get it all to them.
So they can email you to get the package?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some only want certain items, some want all of it, some just wonder if they can have it, and I say yes, and they say okay, and then they don't want it.
Okay. Nope, and I can pass that along too.
All right. So right now there's on the table to simply to post the package. Do you want to proceed that way, or do you want to leave it to staff to find out what mechanisms might be available to make it possible?
I will withdraw my motion and make a motion to ask the CAO to ask his staff to provide information on how we could post our agenda on our county website, or our package on our county website.
Thank you. First of all, the second of the original motion, Councillor Gunn, you agree to have that withdrawn?
Absolutely. Yep.
Councillor Hemming, you're seconding the new motion. That's correct?
Yes.
All right.
So,
For the discussion on the new motion, Councillor LeBlanc?
Did you want to put Facebook as well? Deputy Warden?
Well, the agenda goes on Facebook.
Usually it'd be a link back to the website from Facebook. So
it will be? Okay.
All right. Further discussion. John?
We have the ability. It's just that very few people have the ability to load it on their computer to look at it. Just
right.
I wasn't sure that you understood that from the motion. We can put it there, but then we're going to have 9 out of 10 people complain that it locks up their computer because they don't have sufficient internet to bring it up on the screen.
I don't want to speak for the deputy warden, but I think her intent is both a system that will work for us that we can do, but also one that's reasonably end user friendly as well, that'll actually work for somebody who wants to access that information, just to see what options are available.
Right.
Okay, Councillor Sheridan.
I just want to point out it is very annoying because I tried I tried to download it on my iPad so I don't have to get a printed package. And when it's over a certain amount of pages, you cannot. And I have pretty good internet speed here. So it is very frustrating and annoying. So it does not work if it's over a certain amount. So even if it's on the web page, you're not going to be able to see it.
Need some
I've
county
tried.
to offer really good internet.
We need internet.
Yes.
Further discussion on this, folks? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks very much. All right, we do have 2 items to deal with in camera under the MGA Section 22C, Personnel, and E, Contract Negotiations. I'm going to ask for a motion to go into. We can have a 5-minute recess before we actually convene there. So Karen, you can put us in the room, but we'll take a moment or two to get a glass of water or whatnot.
What time we come back?
Just say it. Let's take a brief break. Call it 5 minutes and come back as quickly as you can.
Okay.
All right. Can I have someone make a motion to go in camera? Moved by Councillor.
So moved.
Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
So are we under what sections?
Oh,
We just did that.
22C, Personnel, and E, Contract Negotiations.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
And so before you move from your chairs, I'll send you to where you need to be.
Perfect.
Sure.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. See you in just a moment, folks.
Did you have a special meeting after this? You said you wanted to.
That's right. So we'll adjourn this and have a quick special meeting of council on the glyphosate letter. I will at this point welcome back to our meeting of council folk, our meeting of committee of the whole rather. At this point, we've concluded our business for the day, so I would declare the meeting adjourned.